Oh man! All right. Good morning. Or I don't know. Anybody got a great night of sleep last night? But hello, it's Friday.
I slept like a baby.
Did you?
Yeah.
I wish I could say the same. Some of us had to call a football game, then do a post-game show, and then drive home afterwards. And
yeah, I was trying to figure out. I was like, "Oh, it's a nice brick background you got."
Yeah,
there.
it was a nice brick
and then
background.
At the end,
wasn't
once
it?
we got to the end, I was like,
Oh,
"Oh,
right.
that's where you are."
Ends at
I was like,
work.
wow, yeah,
Where
he
were
did
you,
leave.
Stevenson?
Yeah.
What did they do?
Not good.
Oh,
Not
well, in
good.
that case, if I had been there, I wouldn't have slept well.
Yeah, it was a rough night for your boy.
Gino Grakowski was pushing all the right buttons.
Gino, look, so former Ravens offensive lineman Gino Grakowski, who is a Super Bowl champion, he's now the offensive coordinator for Rowan University, who played Stevenson last night in Owings Mills, which was very random this week. And Gino, a guy I love, genuinely love.
He was a center, wasn't he?
He was a center, yes. Yeah. He had played a little bit of guard
Where
early
did he
on.
play college?
Delaware,
that's right. Yeah.
So, Gino, this was his first ever game as a play caller, as a coach. Brilliant! Brilliant! Might want to talk to that guy. Man, he was impressive. Alas, no one really cares about that. We will obviously
What
talk.
was the final score then?
I don't know, 35-16, I think was the final score.
Stevenson usually doesn't get beat.
No, they were without their quarterback. There was a lot of stuff.
But they had their play-by-play voice.
They did have their play-by-play voice.
For what, like a half?
For the half, completely focused. Well, there was also tennis going on.
Oh, so
somewhat
really
focused.
Not at all, actually.
Somewhat. I don't think I made any significant mistakes during the course of the game.
None significant.
Alas. You think that's something? Watch me call a soccer match tonight while there's an NFL game, U.S. Open men's semifinals, and the Orioles all going on at the same time. I don't have enough screens.
It's tough life.
Really
it's a tough life.
Really is. Really is. It's
you
my
get
favorite.
paid for each of those gigs.
Well, for one of them, yeah. For one of them. Stan is here. Yes, Chief Grand Poobah, Stan the Fan Charles from PressBox, in studio with us on a Friday. Coming up in a bit, Bo Smolka will join us. We will chat with him about everything that happened last evening. Also coming up a little bit later on, Trey Wingo is going to join us. He's now with DraftKings. He was in Kansas City last night. We will get thoughts on what he saw and stuff and things peppered in throughout the course of the morning. If you missed our Project Game Day post-game show last night, you can find it right now by going to facebook.com/PressBoxSports, youtube.com/PressBoxOnline. You can also listen to it. We posted up in the archives on the greatest hits at glennclarkradio.com, so you can listen to it there and on SoundCloud. Myself, Femi, Rita, Andrew, KZ, and it was we couldn't even get KZ to fight last night. I don't know if it was because it was late or just the nature by which the Ravens lost. It was not a combative episode of Project Game Day last evening. We'll be doing it all season long, PressBoxOnline.com/game day. It's brought to you by the Maryland 5-Star Green Turtle Sportsbook and 1-800-GAMBLER, as well as Easy Pass. Stan, I know that you, in general, a little down on the Ravens coming into this season.
Yep.
I think that last night, for the most part, whatever you felt coming in, you're probably going to feel mostly the same way coming out of it. If, like you're down on it, then you're not going to find a lot of things going to make you say, I feel dramatically different about this team.
Right.
If you came in saying, I think they're a good football team, I think they've got to overcome some offensive line struggles, and they'll be right in it, then I don't think that anything about what happened last night is going to dissuade you from that opinion. I don't know what the take would be that you would feel if you somehow thought that in week one the Ravens' offensive line was going to be gangbusters, then you're an insane person. So I don't know what reasonable take you could have that you would suddenly feel dramatically different about based on what happened last night. I don't think the Ravens played all that well, and yet
they were right there.
They were 1 inch away from having a chance to go for two and win the game.
Right.
So I don't know what the big takeaway could possibly be other than for week one, it was probably about what I expected. And
the big takeaway for me was that I won the game. And
you did get the point in the pick'em. That is true. You did get the point. That was an important point.
No, I actually came
Stan
away.
was the one guy that was like, don't go for two. No. Do not go for two.
I actually came away more optimistic than pessimistic about the Ravens last night.
Is that in part because you were so pessimistic going into it?
I was pretty pessimistic going in, but they showed that they can for the most part they can play with anybody. I mean, they were playing the Super Bowl champs and in their home, territory. I don't think they will. I don't know how it's possible to have 5 of those penalties.
Yeah, correct.
What are they called? Illegal formation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know after the first one why somebody wouldn't have instead of bitching to the referees, wouldn't have said to their guys.
So
guys, stay. You got to be.
So their explanation appeared to be that the way that the league told them it was going to be called was not the way it was being called, and that because the teams always get this during.
But after they called one of them or 2 of them,
right?
Wouldn't it be sort of like, hey guys, they're calling this?
Yeah, whatever we think it's supposed to be.
How many times did it need to be?
I understand what you're saying, Stan. I think the other frustration is looking at the guy on the other side who's clearly lining up just about exactly the same way, and it's not getting called.
Yeah.
So I can understand I'm not giving it a pass by any stretch of the imagination, but I certainly think there's some gray area there that needs to be cleaned up.
I don't mean to bring this really into the conversation. Mm-hmm. People die. But if Joe D were alive, I don't think that would have taken place 5 times.
I don't know, but I understand what you're saying, Stan. I understand what you're saying.
And that's not a knock at a current coach, but geez whiz, how many times did it take? You're talking about asking a guy to move back, like what? 2 inches?
Move up, really.
Move up,
right, move up.
2 inches, right?
More or less. I do think that it's a difficult moving target, and they're trying. But what they're saying afterwards
What is the reason that they're making this a point of?
I think a lot of us have always thought it was weird when you look at an offensive line and it's like curved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's not supposed to be what football.
Right.
It's one of those things. I would almost compare it to the neighborhood play in baseball.
Right.
Like the neighborhood play was not part of the rules. The rule was
you got to
touch the base in order to get a guy out.
Ball. Yeah.
But we just accepted it. People started doing it, so we just sort of said, well, that's, it's part of baseball. It's what we've gotten to know. And it feels like that's the way it's gone with football, is that teams started saying, hey, let's get our tackles into a better prepared blocking stance.
I also think it's great to make that a point of emphasis. To me, that bordered on silliness.
Oh, it was utter silliness.
Yeah, I mean, silliness by the referees.
Yes.
It's like after 2 times or 3, you go to the coach and say, look, I'm going to let it go today, but we are making this a point of – we've made it a point of them.
Correct.
I don't want to change the way the outcome of the game occurs, but clean it up next week.
I don't disagree with
you. Perfectly reasonable to me.
I don't disagree with you, and I think it's something that I will be interested by how that goes with the league moving forward, because we've seen this in the past with other calls that get hyper called in week 1 and week 2, and they don't change the rule, but they do get on a conference call. Maybe we should try to talk to Pereira about that. Like they do get on a conference call at some point and say, all right, what we were trying to do here, we can't turn this into we're whistling this on every play.
Yeah.
We want it to be a certain way. We're trying to make the point to teams, but we can't. It's bad for the product overall.
And for the first game of the season, a highlight matchup of 2 powerhouse teams, whatever I thought going in.
Right.
To have it besmirched really in a way by that. I'm just saying, after 2 or 3 times, just tell Harbaugh,
all right,
hey, we're letting it go from now on today, but this is, say the league is on us to do this, but I don't want to ruin the game.
Now, it's obviously not the only offensive line problem the Ravens are dealing with, clearly. No. And to their credit, they did finally figure things out with how to work with. Now, a lot of that is the same thing it always is in Baltimore. Lamar, go get him, right? Like, go be Rose Bowl Vince Young, go do everything in your power because we can't help you that much. But that's why you have Lamar Jackson. You have Lamar Jackson because he's capable of doing those things. Some of the takes, I mean, this is why I can't watch any of the people that are like, well, this is on Lamar Jackson. He's got to make those. He made a throw. Yeah. He did. Yeah. We all saw it. I get it. I would have liked him to have hit Zay Flowers too.
Yep.
That would have been great. He did miss that throw. Believe it or not, quarterbacks do sometimes miss throws. And, as he explained, when he originally was making that throw, said he saw Bateman, wanted to go to Bateman.
Right.
Suddenly Flowers comes open, but he's looking at Justice Hill blocking Chris Jones and saying, I don't have a lot of time right now. I just got to get rid of the ball.
Yeah.
I want him to make those throws. But then one play later.
But that throw's not the one that concerns you about Lamar. I mean, that was just a miscommunication or whatever. He didn't view the space correctly. The balls that are concerning are the deep balls. That continues to be a real plague. I wouldn't refer to the touchdown then called back to lightly to be like a deep throw. I mean, it was.
It's not a deep throw. That was a
that was a 20-yard
17,
play,
something like that. Right. I guess more like 20 yards. You're right, 20 because they were on the 10. Yeah,
right.
It's a good point. You're right. That's why I'm struggling with the take. And I also do think that part of this, Stan, is that I hate saying it this way. You were hard-pressed to tell me about how much this game mattered. And I'm gonna criticize myself for that, but that's the reality of the circumstances. We said over and over again, if the Ravens had won that game, none of us are coming in here today and saying they're winning the Super Bowl.
Right.
Shut it down.
Right.
It's all over.
Right.
It doesn't change the fact that it could hurt you. It could be the reason why the AFC Championship game is in Kansas City this year. It could be the reason why you end up in a tie with the Bengals in the division.
And Russell Wilson's one of the captains of the Steelers.
Oh, God, you got to keep that in mind, too. That could really change everything for them. That really could change. Now they might all be doing high knees on the plane. They might all be in that. That might be the reason moving forward why you're a wild card instead of a division winner is this one game. But it was just hard. It was hard for me to be very worked up about this one game because the value of this one game will have always been cool. What happens in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Cool. Neato, gang. Which is, to me, part of the reason why John Harbaugh was going to go for 2. Because this was not... I know that Lamar personally seemed to make it like I want to try to avenge because he played poorly in the playoff game. But for the team, this wasn't the one. That one can't happen in September. They've won big regular season games. They were the best team in football a year ago. What did it do for them?
Not much.
They got to be the team that's good in January.
Yep.
And now how do you get there? You need your offensive line to be better. I'm worried about Kyle Van Noy. That's extraordinary.
What injury was? I mean, I saw it. I saw him laying face down on the field. What was that?
An orbital.
A fracture of his orbital.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not good.
No, it ain't good. It ain't.
Yeah, it's not a one you play.
Good at all. Fractured orbital. This is Steve Weish of NFL Network. Fractured orbital bone in Thursday's loss to the Chiefs. According to a source with direct knowledge of the injury, he will undergo further testing to determine how much time he will miss. Well, at least they're really deep in the edge rush department.
David Ojabo got a sack.
Yeah, he did have a sack. And then I heard his name.
Not again.
Not again. Not again. But he did have that one sack, and it was a good play, and I don't want to take that away from him. It was a very good play.
You know who on replay, I couldn't have told you he was playing that well during the game, but it looked like Owe really is a different, little bit of a different player now.
It's a difficult thing talking about Odafe Owe, Stan, because if you take out sacks, if you don't judge him by sacks, you come away saying this is a good, helpful. I don't want to say Jarrett Johnson, but there's some similarity to
the skill set.
Guy that can make a difference in a bunch of different ways, whose athleticism is real, who can disrupt plays, who can. There's a lot to like about Odafe Owe, the football player. The problem is you drafted him in the first round wanting to like him as
a sack guy.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
it'll be interesting to see. He looked, as has been his sort of MO, he looked a little late to the dance to get sacks, but last night that may have been more on how great Mahomes is at at
part
really
of it,
sizing up
100%.
the amount of time he has.
You're going up against a unicorn, but it's a reminder, like that's what you're gonna have to do.
Yeah.
Like, there's no getting to where you want to get to without figuring out that. You have to figure that out.
Yeah.
To your point, and I think that I largely agree with you. I'm not big picture worried about the Ravens. I'm not.
I expected to come out of that game really like this is going to be a down season. I could not honestly come away negative last night.
I think that even last night they weren't even doing it the way that we expect. I think that moving forward they're gonna want to be the bully ball team. I think that you're gonna want to see more of Derrick Henry early on, setting the tone and playing from in front. They weren't able to do that the same way last night, despite the success they found on the first drive. That first drive, afterwards you've walked away from it saying, "Oh man, the Ravens, this really might work out brilliantly for them."
I'm anxious to see Henry. Look, I've always been pretty honest that I'm not a fantastic. You get me talking about baseball, I feel like I can talk with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I saw Derrick Henry looking slow to holes. Now that could have been because the holes weren't there.
Yeah,
he just looked a little old to me last night. Now that was my take.
I guess my thought would be Derrick Henry's never been the he's never been the burner.
No, he's
not.
But
that's
he hits
not
the
him.
hole pretty
that
quick.
part you're right about, and I do think that part of that is there weren't a lot of holes, but it's something that I'll
Old to me last
I'll look
now,
at.
now, conversely, I thought Justin Hill played a pretty darn
Justice
good
Hill,
football game.
God bless
Justice
him,
Hill,
man.
yeah.
God bless him, man.
He played a really nice
Justice
football.
Hill picking up Chris Jones. It's just unreal. It's just unreal. God bless him. Obviously, Isaiah Likely was brilliant. We'll do.
Not only was he brilliant on pass catching,
but the block is one of the best things I've ever
seen.
seen.
Yeah.
God,
Did he come in with a reputation?
Nope.
Not
at all.
That is something that they have coached him up on.
Decleating George Karlaftis, just decleating him. Isaiah Likely looked like a man possessed, and we saw it a year ago. Like, he became a superstar in front of our eyes, but we were reluctant to believe that would continue this year because Lamar likes to throw the ball to Mark Andrews, and would they make sure they get both guys on the field? At this point, the relationship between Lamar and Isaiah Likely appears to be so significant that I don't see a world in which they go away from that as the season goes on. Isaiah Likely is a special football player. And look, man, good on Rashad Bateman, who, as maligned as he has been, I've never thought that it was on him specifically. Rashad Bateman doesn't drop the football. He's not Brashad Perryman. He's a guy that gets open, that the ball just doesn't tend to go his way. And despite the fact that it had only gone his way one time all night last night, and everybody was talking about his body language, and then sure enough,
he makes a big
final drive of the game when you desperately had to have chunk yards and someone had to go make a play for you, there it was Rashad Bateman being the one to go make a play for you.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
There's a lot of guys that I thought did. Trenton Simpson was
very good,
awesome last night. Trenton Simpson was phenomenal.
He's a great punter.
The game is
linebacker.
If he doesn't make that play, the game's over. I mean, Mahomes is hitting Travis Kelce, the game's over. They're never getting the ball back, and the Chiefs are taking 3 knees.
Travis Jones.
Yeah, Travis Jones was a force. You're right.
I guess he didn't really accumulate any
statistics,
stats,
but he was impactful.
Every pressure.
You're right. He was very impactful last night. I agree about that.
And I didn't realize Matabuco changed
Nnamdi
his name.
Nnamdi Madubuike now is what you'll know him as. Nnamdi
It's not
Madubuike.
as threatening as.
You think that?
I might
I don't know if I agree with that. Yeah, I don't know.
Nnamdi.
Madubuike. We'll work on it. We'll get there eventually. The season will end. Nnamdi Madubuike.
Let me write that down.
Dominic DeCoco.
Yeah.
Dominic. Say it again.
Who was the
Dominic?
Who was the Samoan running back the Steelers had?
Chris Fuamatu Ma'afala.
I used to, every
Chris
time we
Fuamatu.
played the Steelers, I used to kid Tom Matty before the game. I said, "How do you pronounce his
Yeah.
name?" And you go,
big Chris Fuamatu Ma'afala guy over here.
I could tell Tarico was proud of himself when he got a Kingsley.
Oh yeah,
Suamamatea.
He had spent some
But he
time
got it.
on
It
that
sounded
one.
like he got it. He nailed
He
it.
had spent some time on that one. All right, yeah, it's look, man. It would have been neat. It would have been fun to come in and talk about a Ravens win today. I would have found that pleasant, but such is life. And the Ravens will get back to work. They'll face the Raiders next Sunday, and the real story will be what happens should these teams meet again come January. In the meantime, Griffin, I know there's some stuff going on at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland that I know. This is the weird part. Griffin came in today and he was like, Glenn, I'm begging you, please let me talk about what's going on at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland.
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, because this season, every time Baltimore or the Washington football team score a touchdown during home games, Live Rewards members will receive $7 in a free slot play. You must have your Live Rewards card inserted correctly into the slot machine and be actively playing in order to receive the prize. But during games, you will get a free $7 slot play when Washington or Baltimore scores a touchdown, valid for slot play only. Adirondack Mills must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
There you go. Joined now here on GCR by our PressBox Ravens beat writer. He is Bo Smolka. Bo, it's Glenn and Stan. It's good to chat with you, buddy. Thank you for taking the time for us.
You're welcome. Good morning.
Bo, I know you got your takeaways up today at PressBoxOnline.com. As Stan and I talked about, it's a weird game to discuss because for the most part, to me, it felt about right. Like we knew the Ravens' offensive line against Chris Jones was a problem, and it was a problem significantly throughout the course of the game, and yet there they were, literally a toe away from having a chance to try to win the game at the end. I don't know. I'm not trying to give them a pass or say, like, hey, it's no big deal that they lost, because maybe it could end up proving to be a significant loss at the end of the year. But it all felt about right to me, Bo.
I understand what you're saying. They're not going to feel that way. They're going to feel they should have won the game. But, the thing is, they weren't the better team, ultimately. And that's really what matters. And, they had moments, and they played hard, and they played well at times. The thing is that you need to be at your best if you expect to beat Mahomes and the Chiefs, especially in Kansas City, because I think Patrick Mahomes, more than anyone playing in the league today, is going to make you pay for your mistakes. And they made a few on defense. Obviously, there was the blown coverage for the huge touchdown.
Yeah.
You get the sense Mahomes is always going to execute at an incredibly high level. And I look back at that last possession of the Ravens, and they just didn't quite execute well enough. I mean, on the play that Isaiah likely got shaken up on, he was open. Before the throw, he was open. And Jackson did make the throw until later, and then he came down hard, and amazingly came back in the game for the last play. And even after that play, there was the play where Zay Flowers was open in the end zone and Lamar Jackson missed him, and that set up the third play. But all three of those plays, remember, come after the Ravens had to use 2 timeouts on defense in the third quarter.
Yeah.
And so it all folds together. It's all related. They played very well for most of the game, but they just quite weren't the better team.
Bo, we had one of what I'll call sort of a Harbaughrism, the going for it, that possession at midfield. Did you like that?
Well, I wasn't surprised by it. I think the other one that people are talking about a lot is going for it later in the game, and then they got the first down, but then a minute and a half later they got stopped and kicked a field goal anyway.
Yeah.
And at that point, you knew you needed 2 scores. So the question is, do you just kick the field goal now and probably give yourself more time? I understand to an extent what he's thinking. We get the first down here. We score the touchdown now.
Yeah.
But 2 things have to happen. 1, you have to make the first down, which they didn't do earlier. And 2, you have to score the touchdown, which they didn't do. On that other one at 4th down at midfield, I pointed out yesterday when they played in Kansas City a few years ago, he went for it on 4th down 3 times, and his explanation was possession matters more than field position against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. You have to possess the ball to beat them, And I just felt he felt at that point in the game, at that spot on the field, it was the right play. Now, I know Chris Collinsworth broke it down and said basically Nelson Aguilar needs to block his man, and it worked. But that's neither here nor there. The play didn't work.
Right.
Yeah, well, I'm also questioning the. I do have a problem with going for it, but if you're going for it at midfield, don't you have to put the ball in some type of situation where it's moving past the
line
first line of scrimmage, the first down line? I mean,
well,
in other words,
again,
that was just seemed like the wrong play.
I mean, they had a lot of plays last night where at one point they were mentioning that their average distance of passes was like a yard in terms of the ball in the air.
Yeah.
So and again, you can understand part of that was I think they recognized that Joe Jackson was not going to have a lot of time to throw with that pass rush against that offensive line in game one. And I'm sure they hope that improves and gets better over the future. But I think that had to be part of the plan was they were going to be a lot of quick throws. There were going to be a lot of checkdowns. There were going to be a lot of swing passes. And that was a way to counter what they were dealing with.
He is PressBox Ravens beat writer Bo Smolka. He's with us here on GCR. Bo, the two things that do stand out as legitimately concerning to me, the first I think we all knew was concerning. That was the offensive line. By the end of the game, it seemed like they had figured something out. Now, part of that, of course, was that Chris Jones started to tire out a little bit from how many snaps he had been on the field. I don't know that there's anything that happened. The Ronnie Stanley penalties, they're going to have to figure that out with the NFL, and I know that'll be a bigger talking point league-wide this week. But in general, anything that makes you think they'll change personnel or just, hey, they knew this was going to be an issue, they signed up for this, they'll continue to try to grow into it in the coming weeks?
I mean, I think their belief is they're going to grow into it in the coming weeks. I think they're fairly committed to it. I guess if it turns, I don't think they look at last night and say, "Wow, that was a complete disaster. That didn't work. We need to change that." I think there's definitely plays that didn't work, but I mean, they had to know that, and I do think they believe in what they've got here. They've spent 5 to 6 months figuring this out, and this is after all that evaluation. This is what they've arrived at as being the best combination. And I don't think a few plays last night is going to make them overhaul it. Now, if it happens week to week to week, yeah, now you're talking something. I know Rosengarten came in for his first snap and he gets beat and there's a fumble, but Rosengarten was right back in there the next series. And so they're obviously letting him grow into it. They've obviously said all the right things about Faalele at guard, and they're going to let him grow it. And they believe in Voorhees. I can't remember. I don't think there's even a competition there, a question who else would play left guard. Maybe you throw Ben Cleveland in if Voorhees gets hurt. But no, I think it's an offensive line they believe in, and I think they're going to let them grow into it and see what happens.
And then the other area, the one that to me ends up being the biggest concern, Bo, you and I have talked about it a million times. I'm flummoxed by how little conversation there was about pass rush all offseason. The one guy they do bring back that was impactful was Kyle Van Noy. Now he has a fractured orbital bone and is going to be missing time. They did have David Ajabo make one really nice play and get a sack, and I am so confused about the lack of urgency that this organization has seemed to have about their lack of a difference-making edge rusher and just believing they can kind of piecemeal it together over the last few years.
I think that's been a fair question. I think all summer I would say the offensive line and the edge rush were the two primary areas of focus. And depth at the outside linebacker position was always an issue because Adisa Isaac, their third-round draft pick, has hardly played all summer because he's been hurt. David Ajabo, you hope, is going to be what they think he'll be, but he had hardly played. Now, he showed something last night, and that was promising. And then you're banking on Owe to become that guy. They paid him to be that guy. They picked up his option, and now they want him to be that guy. And they need it. And you're right. I mean, now with Van Noy out, you're going to lean on Tavius Robinson, who hasn't done a whole lot. Malik Harrison's probably going to have to play a lot more outside than they would like to. And they're probably going to have to go find another outside linebacker, especially if Van Noy is out for an extended period of time because Isaac's not close to playing, and now Van Noy's not playing. So, yes, depth at the outside linebacker and production are still, I think, highly valid concerns.
But other than that,
How did you enjoy the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Yeah.
Other than that, there were a ton.
Well, like you said, look, I mean, they came down to
Right.
in Kansas City, and they had the ball
Right.
to win.
I came away more optimistic than pessimistic yesterday.
But I think the number of things that we can say are positives, and I know you wrote about like that. Any concern? A year ago, Isaiah Likely looked like a superstar, and I think a lot of people were afraid that with Mark Andrews back out on the field and Lamar Jackson loving to throw him the ball, that maybe despite how good we think Isaiah Likely is, it wasn't going to happen. Well, that question is taken care of. They're going to get the ball to Isaiah Likely, and they have something truly special there. Justice Hill looked good. Rashad Bateman makes a huge catch. Trenton Simpson absolutely looks the part. My guy Femi Ayanbadejo last night was telling me he thinks the ceiling for Trenton Simpson might be higher than it was for Patrick Queen. There are plenty of things to look at and say, hey, if you want to feel better, to Stan's point, if you want to feel optimistic and that this team might be even a little bit better, there are certainly areas to look at and say this might be even a little bit better than we thought it was coming into the year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, the questions are still the questions. And John Harbaugh said on pass downs, if you look at that play at the end of the game, Hill was basically tasked with dealing with Chris Jones,
Unreal.
almost like a tackle.
Yeah.
But he's their pass down running back, and he had a good game. Likely, the thing with Likely is he's just so good after he catches the ball. I mean, that touchdown last night, he caught at the 30-yard line. And he made a nice move to get it away, and then he got a good block from Zay Flowers, and then he worked his way to the end zone. And if you go back and look at some of his touchdowns last year, he didn't catch them in the end zone. He caught them and then fought his way into the end zone. I mean, that's just huge from him. And so, Todd Monken had said all summer, we're going to find ways to get both those tight ends on the field. It was obviously surprising that Andrews wasn't a bigger part of the game. He only had 2 catches for 14 yards. That I don't think anyone would have seen that coming with a healthy Mark Andrews. But yeah, there's a lot to come out of that game feeling good about. Again, remember, it was also the first game for Zach Orr as defensive coordinator. So some of those hiccups,
Sure.
The timeouts had to be taken because of substitution problems, the blown coverage, some of those things are going to happen. Remember, Mike McDonald had a couple really bad games early in his career.
There were some moments where we wondered if they had hired the right guy.
Right, and Zach Orr's defense did a pretty good job last night. They held the Chiefs to field goals when they got. Remember, Chiefs took over in the red zone after the fumble, and they didn't score a touchdown on that drive.
Yep.
Trenton Simpson made the big pass breakup. Travis Jones forced an interception. There was a lot to like about how they played defensively. So, again, it's week 1, and I think John Harbaugh said it best. Win or lose, they got 17 games to play, and that they can't let whatever happens in that first game linger. It's the nature of the beast in the NFL. You turn a page, you got to move on. There's the 24-hour rule and all that. Now they get a little bit of a mini bye. They get a couple extra days, and then they're home again next Sunday, and they go on. And they can be happy or pleased with a lot of what they saw. And they know, but they also know it's going to stick in their craw. They could have won that game, and they just didn't quite do enough.
Hey, Bo, I wanted to ask you about this point of emphasis on these formation penalties. Do you feel it's fair? I understand the need for a point of emphasis on certain rule changes. Don't you think after 2 or 3 calls in the first 5 minutes that they go over to Harbaugh and say, look, we're making this a point of emphasis. We're going to kind of let it go the rest of this game. I mean, to give one team 5 of those penalties seems grossly unfair, and making it more than a point of emphasis, it kind of was silly, I thought.
Well, I thought the Ravens have an absolute beef there because first there were really 4 of them because the 5th, one of them was on Rashad Bateman, and that was
right.
That had done nothing to do with what this point of emphasis is with the offensive lineman.
Good point.
But it was 3 on Stanley and 1 on McCary, and to Stanley, I'm not in Kansas City. I wasn't in Kansas City, but I saw Stanley's comments after the game. He said, "Well, from what I could see, the Chiefs' right tackle was definitely farther back than I was. And I think he absolutely has a point there. Mm-hmm. And it was never called on him. And so I think that of all the things, I think that's where John Harbaugh can say, wait a minute. I think he's going to go back and look at some of those plays. And I posted a couple of them where it looks like the Chiefs right tackle is clearly off the line of scrimmage, and it was never called. So I think they have a real beef there. The interesting thing is every August, an NFL crew comes to the Ravens facility and meets with us. So they meet with a bunch of the reporters, and they talk about points of emphasis in the upcoming season. I don't remember them mentioning that as a point of emphasis. Now, they clearly mentioned it to the teams.
Okay.
But when we talked to them, there was so much talk about the new kickoff rule. And part of that was the questions about it, and that kind of drove the conversation. It was obvious that the teams were informed by the league that they're going to make this a point of emphasis. And to your point, I think you call it once or twice on Stanley. It's what basketball officials do all the time.
Yeah.
They call a holder, a grab, and they say, knock it off. All right, enough. Don't do it anymore, Stanley, at one point, I saw him look over like you see wide receivers do and look to the line judge and say, hey, am I good here? Am I good here? Which they don't normally do. But to me, it struck me that the biggest gripe that the Ravens have here is that it looked like the Chiefs were violating that formation rule at least multiple times, and it was never called. Yeah. And I think they absolutely have a gripe there.
It is something that I think will be a larger conversation around the NFL as we see how that, I
don't think you'll see another game this weekend where a team gets called for 4.
Oh, you think that call will be made in the next 24 hours? Let's not allow this to become a thing. I think you could be right about that. All right, Bo, if anybody hasn't picked it up yet, the print issue of PressBox is available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms and the hundreds of locations around town where you find PressBox.
Did Bo have a column in
he
there?
He had a great cover story, in fact.
And a column?
Yeah, there's a lot going. Bo's a busy man, but he's got a great cover story all about Kyle Hamilton, and you can go pick that up for free or read it online at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find today his 5 takeaways from last night's game. At B Smolka on Twitter. Bo, appreciate you, man. Thanks for hopping on. Let's talk again next Friday, all right?
All right, thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Bo.
Bo Smolka, PressBox Ravens beat writer. We got to dish out some slaps to the helmets. We will get to those when we come back in. Stan is here. It is a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Hey Baltimore, it's number 10, Arthur Millette, and I'm hoping you'll slot us in all season long for the Arthur Millette Show. We will be traveling around the region all season, giving you the chance to get to know me and my teammates. There will be some football talk and a lot more. You can watch this show live on PressBox's Facebook and YouTube pages and listen every Friday night on 105.7 The Fan. Find out more at PressBoxOnline.com/Millette. The Arthur Millette Show, the only show in town that's a work of art.
The next Arthur Millette Show is Tuesday, September 10th at the Hamilton Sports Bar and Grill on Harford Road. It's brought to you by Easy Pass and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org.
Escape to Ocean City, Maryland, and discover a place that just feels lighter, where every day feels like Saturday and French fries are a food group, where flip-flops are always in fashion and seafood is always in season, where the boardwalk is bustling and the beach is right outside your door, where you can rise with the tide and feel like a kid again. Ocean City, Maryland, somewhere to smile about. Book your trip at OCOcean.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at DriveEasyMD.com.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
Back in here on GCR. Sorry, I got a lot going on. I was just reminded of something else that's going on, and now I'm frustrated. I haven't slept at all. It's been a rough week. It's been a rough week.
You know what Tim Walz says.
We got an American semifinal in the...
There is that.
You know what Tim Walz says.
What does Tim Walz say?
We'll sleep when we're dead.
That's true. We will sleep when we're dead, Stan.
I've heard that before.
We will do that.
I don't have my phone. I don't have my phone today.
Yeah.
But my wife worked for 10 years for a farmer's market.
Okay.
In Pomona Square in Pikesville, and then about 5 years ago, she was retiring anyway, she was not going to do it anymore, but he sold his family farm in this area and moved to Pennsylvania to work for a farmer there, and in return he does the farming for the whole farm, but he got the grocery store on the farm. Okay.
Oh.
And he sent a picture to Jane the other day with him with the coach.
Oh, that's cool. That's pretty neat. Oh, I guess that's all they're going to do is spend. They just live in Pennsylvania at this point, more or less.
He's sleeping over Corey's house.
I mean, that's all. That's how we do elections in this country. Not every person's vote counts for one. We let Pennsylvania determine who gets to be the president.
And sometimes
it's a hell of a thing we do. Like
No, not Minnesota.
No, not Minnesota. Michigan a little bit. Wisconsin, kind of. Arizona, Georgia, Nevada get to have a little bit of
North
a say.
Carolina,
but the reason to live in Arizona.
More or less, Pennsylvania. Almost
specifically
always.
That one county outside of Philly.
Yeah,
right?
that's just where they always. That's everybody's like, oh, the electoral college means you can't. You have to try to get the entire country. No.
Now I couldn't.
No.
I couldn't explain to you how it works, but you know, in Nebraska, there's also this.
There's like a sliver, right?
One electoral vote.
Yeah.
In this Democratic strong.
And everybody always talks about it when they talk about the scenario. There could be a tie, right? And like everything gets thrown into upheaval, and somehow Griffin's president. Like we don't. We just wake up one morning.
I think I can lay low, so people wouldn't.
They might have a
I wouldn't be the
rule-
worst. I wouldn't be the best.
They might have a rule that it's the closest Grand Poobah to the White House.
Is that what it is? And so
becomes the
you got to be the.
I could. There's
Stan's
a
in the
chance.
neighborhood.
All
Stan's
right.
just going to have to drive
the neighborhood
Certainly.
play.
Right. All right. Obviously, no man of the match last night as the Orioles were off. But we will instead preface getting into slaps to the helmet with this.
Experience the thrill of the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, coming October 17th to 20th. See the world's best equestrians compete in the sport of eventing, the ultimate test of horse and rider. Enjoy a weekend festival featuring local food, shopping, and fun for all. Come for the event and stay for the experience in Cecil County, home to the Chesapeake Bay waterfront, vibrant small towns, and family entertainment. Tickets on sale now at maryland5star.us.
All right, so real quick, we're going to make a shift here moving forward. We'll get into the normal run of the week, and we'll do Slaps to the Helmet, obviously, on Mondays. And Slaps to the Helmet moving forward is going to be a chance for you to win a great prize, because every time we do Slaps to the Helmet or Pats on the Ass this season, you, just by participating, just by sending in your own list, could win a $50 gift card to the Costas Inn.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Am I eligible to?
I got bad news, pal. I got bad news.
Why?
You and Griffin, unfortunately, you're
What did
out.
we
But
do?
you?
No, not me either. Not me
I guess that makes
either.
you feel a little
John
better.
Colson,
but,
though,
like,
he can win.
Well, I've got a lot. I got questions. Sometimes I look around and say, "What happened to all the gift cards?" Huh? Got some questions about
They're
that.
all in his lock
Yeah,
lock
right.
box in there.
At Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter is how you get in. If you want to participate. And again, someone will be chosen at random to win a $50 gift card to the Costas Inn, where I enjoy everything.
When you
everything.
Wait a minute. When you say they're eligible to win,
yes.
do they have to be right on all 5?
No, they don't have to be right. They just have to send in a list. It just has to be a legitimate list. You can't send in a list that says
Mickey Mouse and
no.
Donald Duck.
You would not be qualified. You would not. Griffin knows it's got to be a legitimate list that can add to the conversation. And if you do that, you're registered. And Griffin puts all your names in a hopper. He's got this giant,
How about Barack Obama and Donald Trump?
No, you can't put any of those names on the list.
Damn it.
Got to be two offensive.
Nancy Pelosi.
No, 2 offensive players. Now you see you got me all worked up. I'm throwing pens. 2 offensive players, 2 defensive players. And then the 5th can be a special teams player, a coach, or another offensive or defensive player. Rank them 5-1 with 1 being your man of the match. It's all brought to you by the Costas Inn, CostasInn.com. You can put it towards a crab tower, and you'll never be happier in your life than if you have a crab tower.
How about like Peter Boulware?
Stop it, Stan. We got to make a list. Number 5. I feel bad because he actually had a hell of a game. He really, I thought, was great last night, and you saw how much better he can be when fully healthy as opposed to a year ago. But still, the hit out of bounds, it's inexcusable. It just can't happen in a game where the margins are so small. And for a veteran in particular, Marcus Williams ends up making the list because of it. And it's not me down on Marcus Williams. Marcus Williams, by the way, this is like I had to consider Lamar on this list, but he was just so bloody good that I couldn't put him in there. You got to consider everybody that played a role in how the team ultimately lost the game. And that is inexcusable to me from a veteran player that you're still having those things happen. And Roquan Smith got away with one. Like, he got away with one. It doesn't forgive Peyton Hendershot shoving him on the sideline. Like, that's not okay either. But Roquan coming away from it like, oh, I didn't do anything. Dude, what are you talking about? Like, you absolutely got away with that, and you are very fortunate that you weren't flagged for that either.
I will go next.
Oh, you want to go next? All right. Yeah, Stan needs to hear what's on your list before he decides.
Because Marcus Williams did have a great game. Outside of that one penalty, he was not on my list. It kind of felt like the Ravens were almost kind of due for something like that after they got away with the Roquan one.
That doesn't make it okay.
It doesn't make it okay. No, it doesn't. But Marcus Williams had a good game. Roger Rosengarten was my number 5. Obviously, maybe you could have put Faalele here, but he did play the entire game, and so he held up for at least a good part of it. Maybe it should be Eric DaCosta as well. I know he can't make the lists, but 3 new offensive linemen, 2 basically rookies, Rosengarten and Voorhees, and McCary, who has never started a full NFL season. So Rosengarten is my number 5, obviously his first play that he comes in, he allows a strip sack of Lamar that just stuck out too much, and highlighting an overall very poor night for the offensive line. So Rosengarten is my number 5.
My number 5 is Marlon Humphreys on the second touchdown.
Yeah,
I even had to confirm it with Griffin that it was more his fault.
Well, I don't. And that's the thing. I don't know. I don't know that it's his fault. If you want to say he's the guy that's been around for a long time, he's the guy that gets paid a lot of money.
Thought
so
he had help back there.
He's got to over communicate in that spot. I couldn't put him on the list because I don't know that he did anything wrong in that spot. I don't know that he did anything wrong. I get it though. Like, that play was bad, and we feel like we need to recognize that play, and he's the one
to stab somebody in the back.
Sure, there you go. Marlon Humphrey gets to be the one because of it. Daniel Faalele is my number 4. I think part of it is just my confusion about why he was the guy to begin with. Like, I never understood why they were committed to Daniel Faalele as a right guard, and it just didn't look good. That's the one area. Like, I believe that by the end of the season, I am confident that Andrew Voorhees can grow into being a quality NFL player. I am confident that Roger Rosengarten is going to be able to grow into being a quality NFL player. I am just not sure.
I mean, in a new position, maybe you can try to thread the needle a little bit and make some sort of excuse. But yeah, it's
I haven't gotten it from day one. I don't see it. I hope
you
I'm
like
wrong.
Him that he's big.
Yeah, he's definitely big, and maybe ultimately it really is just a rotation, and I don't know. I just don't see it from Daniel Faalele, man.
Marlon Humphrey will be higher on my list for what it's worth.
Okay.
Malik Harrison is my number 4 here. They were openly he came in. He started playing a little bit more after Van Noy went down, and they were openly picking on him coming out of the second half. And clearly they knew that he was going to play a role on this team, so they, I'm sure, had higher expectations for him. You got to expect more from him. He was not offering much, even though he didn't play a whole lot. But he was not. He took on a bigger role once he was playing, and they were openly picking on him. That led to an immediate touchdown coming out of the second half. So Malik Harrison, my number 4.
My number 4 is Ajabo. Even though he got 1 sack, he was
just kind of disappeared from there.
Yeah, kind of more than kind of disappeared.
Okay,
he did disappear.
Okay,
so
I get it.
I'm encouraged by the 1 sack, and I'm encouraged he made it through a game without getting hurt. So that's something to be encouraged by.
Malik Harrison's my number 3. I can't really add a whole lot to it. It's someone that you've wanted to see grow into a role, any role at all. And it just, you've never really seen it. And everybody talks about him playing out of position, and I just don't know what he's good at. I don't know what his strength is. And certainly when he was in, my God, putting him on Rashee Rice, like, what in the world are you want to say that's not on him, that's on Zach Orr? Like, fine. But, he just... Like, that is some of the most painful film that you will ever see in your life. Yeah, Malik Harrison's my number 3.
Number 3 is where I put Marlon Humphrey. Whether there should have been safety help on, obviously there should have been safety help on that second Xavier Worthy touchdown. But Marlon never even got his hands on him. He was nowhere. He was nowhere even near Xavier Worthy anywhere on that play. On top of what was really a lackluster day overall for Marlon, he just kind of looked a little bit slower. For a guy that he's still being paid as a top 5 corner, right? Yeah. Like for a guy that should be, one of the premier corners in the league. It didn't look like he was finishing as many tackles as he normally does. He just kind of looked a little slow. And obviously the Chiefs have a ton of speed as well, so there may be a bad comparison there. But Marlon did not have a good day. And, this is one of the veteran guys on this team. He's getting paid one of the highest paid guys on the team on either side of the ball. I was not impressed with Marlon Humphrey last night.
I'm going to put Ronnie Stanley as my number 3. With 3 of those penalties, he's got to be able to figure that out after the first one, what he's doing wrong. And it kind of smacks of the little kids game. Well, he started it, where the Ravens are saying that they did it even worse than we did. He's got to worry about himself and be in a legal formation.
Ronnie Stanley's my number 2, and I do think it's complicated, Stan. I think it's a complicated conversation, and I do think some of those points matter. Like, it does matter if that's not – we had a conversation in the preseason. You told us what we could do and what we couldn't do, and now you're officiating the game a different – that does matter. But to your point, it doesn't take the penalties off the board. Like, I don't know where the line is between the two things, and ultimately it was 15 yards worth of penalties that were hurtful for the Ravens, who were trying to play their style of football last night and weren't able to get into it. So whatever happened...
That clarification stuff is good for after the game. During the game, you saw what they were calling. I'll even give them the first 2, but getting a third one later in the game is really bad form.
I think it's complicated. I think I'm not coming down on Ronnie Stanley. I think Ronnie Stanley, away from the penalties,
played a fairly decent game.
I think was pretty good.
Yeah.
But the penalties were a part of the story, and so in judging what happened in the game, Ronnie Stanley's my number 2. Yes.
Yeah, Ronnie Stanley, my number 2 as well. Exactly. I don't know exactly how to measure all those illegal formations, but yeah, the point still stands. It needs to be fixed. Like, how do you not address that at some point, whether what you were doing was illegal or not? It was getting called, so you can't allow that to happen multiple times, 2, 3, 4 times. So yeah, Ronnie Stanley, I don't have too much, he wouldn't, again, one of the higher paid guys on this team, even though he did take a pay cut, like you expect a lot more from one of the veteran guys on this group.
Your number 2, Stan?
My number 2, because I'm struggling here, but my number 2, I'm going to give it to John Harbaugh for going for it on that midfield 4th and what was it? 4th and 3,
Fourth
and 4. To me, it's and maybe it's a slap on the helmet to Todd Monken. I don't understand calling a play that doesn't get you.
Yeah, I didn't like the play call at all.
Yeah.
A lot of people. I didn't dislike the decision as much as some other people did.
I didn't mind the decision at all.
Yeah, I don't know that I loved the decision. I was kind of
the play call. Obviously, was
the play call to
horrendous.
me. Was dreadful. It was a dreadful call. I don't know. But the ironic part being John Harbaugh is going to be my number 1, but if you guys think, if this is your moment, and I think you just told me that Ron's waiting on hold, like if this is your moment, you think, oh, Glenn's coming around. It's not. It's not. This is more, they lost a close game by a toe, and some of the stuff, the timeouts, you can say, hey, that's on Zach Orr, really, right? Because you didn't have the right personnel on the field. But that's where John Harbaugh, to me, you've got a first time ever defensive play caller. You're gonna need to help out a little bit more to make sure that you don't end up in this situation where you have to waste 2 timeouts by the midway point of the third quarter. Like, you've got to be more involved. And I know that's not John Harbaugh's MO. And I have defended him over that. That one of the things I like about John Harbaugh is that he doesn't micromanage. Like, every time we say it, John Harbaugh's got to get on. Whoa, you don't want that. You don't want your head coach lingering over someone trying to do their job. It's one of the things that people like most about this organization that come into it. Still, that uniquely could not happen last night. The game was going to be determined in the margins, and that was part of the reason why the game was determined in the margins, was because of the 2 timeouts. So, unfortunately to me, John Harbaugh's got to wear that. It's not, you got to fire this guy. This is football. This is the first game of the season. Stuff happens.
Let me understand something. That situation where Spagnuolo ran down and called the timeout. Yeah. Why isn't that a penalty against him? If that's
apparently it's not.
We can't find if there is any rule in the book about, like, it should be
the
clearly.
Referee that they had on Terry McNally, he said it was.
And that's what somebody else told me that I had suddenly missed that. I was trying to look.
All he said was like, you can't do that, right?
I kept looking through to see if there was written anywhere in the rule book like what you do if.
He apologized. He said,
I screwed up.
He goes, I'm sorry.
Here's the audio, I think.
Rules analyst, Terry, that's not the way it's supposed to go.
He can't do that. It has to be the head coach that comes down. The assistant coach, nobody else can call timeout on the sideline except the head coach.
But that's
pretty clear.
Yeah. But I know that.
But
it doesn't say
he says he can't do it.
That's the point. Like, I think we all think it should be, but I don't know that there's anywhere in the rule book that says that it is, versus I don't know what the recourse is there. I really don't, other than to now you got to write that in the rule book moving forward so that if it ever happens again, they don't screw it up. I mean, it's insane. Yeah. It's insane that was an issue.
Harbaugh's my number 2 as well. Mainly the 2 timeouts.
He was my number 1.
Yeah, number 1. Sorry, that's what I meant. He's my number 1. Mainly because of the timeouts, like, and especially because they take these timeouts early in the third quarter, and immediately coming out of the timeout, the Chiefs have a 20-yard pass play right out of it.
Yep.
Like, it was a complete. It felt like a complete waste of timeouts. When, as you said, they're gonna need those. Also, the illegal formations. It all umbrellas to the head coach. So
fair.
My number 1, I thought that play Rosengart came in the game.
Changed everything.
It was significant, you know. And I said to the guy I was watching the game with, I said, that's not a real smart play to put him in.
Right.
So I know I can't do 2 coaches, so I'll do Rosengarten, who
Fair
I thought
enough.
Otherwise, I think he's going to be a pretty solid
I think he'll be
player.
all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get it. Like that was a big
I struggled
momentum.
to get 5
It was a
slaps.
big momentum play in the game. I don't disagree with that. I couldn't make him number 1, but I hear you, Steve.
Yeah.
Let me squeeze Ron in because he's been hanging on, and then we'll get to Trey Wingo. Ron's in Owings Mills. Good morning, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing well, Glenn. It's always good to hear you guys. It helps me after losses. I'm rooting for Tiafo. At least we'll have an American in the final.
I mean,
we'll see.
Brother, it would be pure magic. I mean, it would just be absolute magic.
Yeah, so I'm glad to see an American, regardless if it's Fritz or Tiafa. That's great. Regarding John Harbaugh, Glenn, the timeout thing, late in games, we never have our timeouts. And even when we do have our timeouts, they're not used properly. So I can't ever win. I don't understand the 4th and 3 at midfield in a 10-7 game. Even if you execute there, Like, what do you? It's so early in the game, and like your defense just got to stop. I just don't. I know it's Patrick Mahomes, but why not just punt and make him go the distance? Like, what is that overcoaching? Like,
yeah, we were talking about it a minute ago, Ron. I don't hate. I'm neutral towards that call because I do think part of that is just trying to establish the type of. The Ravens want to play bully ball. That's who they are in the Lamar Jackson era. And that is a chance for them to continue to be able to play the way that they want to play and not have to play from behind. Now, was it likely to work? I didn't like the play call. And I to your point, I am not.
The play call is not bully ball. It was like a.
No, the play call is getting to the outside and hoping to find some space. I think that the idea is let's just pick this up. Let's keep going downhill. Let's keep doing the things that we want to do with Lamar and Derrick Henry. And if we pick this up, we feel like we can. If we give it back, we run the risk that we keep having to play from behind the rest of the way. Right. And I think that is the thought process there. I'm not justifying it that way. To me, it's I'm very neutral. I'm very neutral about what you do in that spot.
I want to see the rest of the year play out. I know you and I disagree on Harbaugh, and that's fine. Like I love you. I don't think if they don't get it done this year with him, and it's clear that there's in-game coaching problems again in the playoffs, I just don't know how we can move forward here. Like I'm really at that point right now. I know that's different than some Ravens fans.
I know how you are, Ron. I know where you're. I love you.
I love you though. I love you though.
Appreciate it.
All right, man.
Thank you, Ron.
That'll be a conversation that we can have at the point at which the conversation should be had. It's it ain't today, which doesn't mean that there won't be a point at which that conversation can be had. Hour number 1 of today's show is in the books. Also brought to you by County Sports Zone. CountySports.zone is the website. It's proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. You can find every score from every game, every team all over the state at CountySports.zone. So it's not just the high school football scores this weekend. It's soccer. It's field hockey. It's volleyball. Harford County.
Cecil County.
Cecil County. Somerset County.
Montgomery
Dorchester.
County.
Moco. All of them.
Hoco.
Howard County. 100%. All of them. Out in Western Maryland. Garrett County.
Wow.
Counties Griffin has literally never heard of.
Give them one.
Oh no, we've tested Griffin on the county. It's always
Baltimore County.
Always one of the first things I do
County.
with new people that work here is test them on their knowledge of Maryland counties, and then I get very depressed. I get very, very.
I did better
depressed.
than 50%.
You actually did better than Kyle Ottenheimer for sure.
Baltimore County.
Yeah, he got that one. Again, CountySports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Our next guest was in Kansas City last night. He is one of our favorites. He's with DraftKings now, and of course he's gone into the podcast game with a really cool one called Alternate Routes with our buddy Kevin Frazier, formerly of Fox 45, here in Baltimore, where they revisit things that could have happened in the history of football. He is Trey Wingo, and he is with us this morning here on GCR. Trey, it's Glenn. Stan Charles is in studio with me this morning. It's always great to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
No worries, guys. How are we in Baltimore? We all right?
We're not jumping off the bridge yet.
Yeah, Trey, it's a really weird vibe here. We're like, I think even going into the game, there was a feeling of like, I'm not sure how much this one really matters because even if they had won the game, like even if Isaiah Likely gets his toe down, they go for 2, they win the game, it would have been, hey, that was neat, but what are you going to do when you have to play him for real in January? Like we're jaded, we're scarred by what happened in the AFC Championship game. I don't think anybody's panicked about it. I think there were some good things that happened in that game, but I think the question still comes back to wake us up when you get to January, and is this team ready to go try to win a Super Bowl?
Guys, I think you're so right, because I said that going into the game yesterday. I was like, the problem for the Ravens and Lamar is no matter what happens in the regular season, it's going to be like, cool, we've seen this before.
Yep.
Now fix the 2 and 4 thing, right? Like that's it. And it's a weird situation for them to be in. It's a weird situation, quite frankly, for the Bills to be in as well, because we've seen Buffalo walk into Arrowhead 3 times in the regular season and come away with a win, and they can't find a way to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs either. So It is obviously you'd love to win the game.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, whatever the verdict on the Ravens is going to be has nothing to do with anything from September through December, and has everything to do with January and potentially February.
Trey, I just got to ask you, because I know you've been around the game for a long, long time. That play where Spagnuolo ran down the sideline and called a timeout, on the national broadcast, Tirico led Terry McNally into it by saying that's not the way that's supposed to go. And McNally said, you can't do that. So which is it? Because nobody can find it in writing that prohibits.
Well, we know that he's not allowed to do. We just don't know what the recourse is. We don't know what. Is it just they shrug their shoulders and
go,
say,
yeah, you can't do that.
But we did it. Sorry, it's too bad.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I don't think there's a penalty associated with it. But it's interesting. You know, I do think in that situation, I think that timeout not only helped the Chiefs, but I also think it helped the Ravens because they were pretty discombobulated going into that situation as well.
That's fair.
It's just one of those. It's one of those things that it's just one of those like weird situations. Like, and people are going to do this because they do it all the time with Kansas City. They get all the calls, and I don't think that had anything to do with it at all whatsoever.
He is Trey Wingo. He's with us here on GCR. Trey, we're a weird society. I'm sure that you have, as you've moved away from being at ESPN, I'm sure you've maybe even enjoyed the fact that you don't have to just force topics and obsess over certain things. And so, like, we're super weirdos in culture. Like, whatever Caitlin Clark breathes, so we have to talk about it. Taylor Swift lives, so we have to talk. And Lamar Jackson's dealt like that. He is one of those sort of boogeymen in the media where let's find any reason to talk about it. And I have just found it all so boring this offseason, and even trying to force it today. Like, well, he could have made one of those throws. Yeah, he could have, and then he made a throw that was great. And should have tied the game if not for literally the tip of a toe. Lamar Jackson's a hell of a quarterback. I don't know if he's going to win a Super Bowl because Patrick Mahomes is a unicorn that's unlike anything we've ever seen. But I just don't know what there is left to debate about Lamar Jackson. Like, we know how great he is. It would be great if he could overcome Patrick Mahomes. That would be awesome. But he's in the exclusive company of, like, every other quarterback in the NFL that is struggling to do that.
You're right. And the difference with Lamar is that he does have the 2 regular season MVPs. Josh doesn't have that. Joe Burrow doesn't have that. A lot of quarterbacks that we consider very good don't have that. Here's the only thing that I will say. And, you're right. He missed on a couple of throws. And quite frankly, Mahomes missed on 2 wheel routes that could have been 2 touchdowns. Like,
fair.
Samaje Perine, if he catches that ball, he walks in for 6. And Patrick missed that throw. And, if Patrick leads Pacheco a little better or floats that a little bit to Pacheco coming out of the backfield in the first half, that's also probably a touchdown where they had to settle for a field goal. But we've seen Patrick do these things when everything is on the line in the playoffs, right? And if we're honest with ourselves, we're still waiting to see that from Lamar in the postseason. And this game, the end of this game, whether you like it or not, and whether you hate the topic or not, is sort of the microcosm of what we think about Lamar. He's an unbelievable player. Like, he was the best person on the field last night. There's no doubt about it. He was electric. But, like, I don't know what other top quarterbacks are missing Zay Flowers like that in the end zone. And before that play, before the toe tap, he had Likely in the corner of the end zone and just kind of floated it. So unfortunately for Lamar, as brilliant as he was last night, and he was the best football player on the field last night, it's going to go back to, can he do these things from the pocket when everything is on the line? And whether you like it or not, last night's game did nothing to take away from that storyline.
Trey, we've been talking about it a little bit earlier in the show. The formation penalties. I get the need. I get the process of kind of a point of emphasis on a rule change that you want to implement. It's not really a rule change. It's really just calling it the way you're supposed to.
Reinforcing, right?
Yeah. But is 4 of them and 3 of them on the first drive? Is that really the way to get that point across? And is it fair to the team playing in the first game?
Here's the way I would answer that question. If Isaiah Likely's toe is down, are we still having this conversation?
No.
So, that's – let's look at the game. The Ravens were penalized 7 times for 64 yards. The Chiefs were penalized 6 times for 45 yards. So, to me, that's a negligible penalty situation. I don't – But do you expect? I know it's a really popular topic whenever the Chiefs win.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I don't think the officiating had anything to do with the game.
It's not really a Chiefs versus Ravens. Do you think there'll be another game this week where there'll be 4 of those called total?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea, but I do think that the refs do go out of their way to say, hey, early on, we're going to call these things and teams adjust. We've seen that happen with all different kinds of infractions or if different kinds of rule changes, however you want to state it. Look at the Kadarius Toney play last year against the Buffalo Bills. Do they always call that lining up with offsides? Probably not, but they called it and negated one of the great plays in the regular season last year with a Kelsey lateral back to Toney that would have put them ahead of the Buffalo Bills with about a minute to play. So it's not unusual for these things to happen.
How do we talk, I saw you tweet about it last night, Trey. How do we talk like adults about Justin Tucker no longer looking like Justin Tucker over the course of the last season?
Now that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because, I did a podcast once with Robbie Gold and Lawrence Tynes and Jay Feely, and I said, who's the greatest? And before I could even get the sentence out of my mouth, who's the greatest kicker of all time, they all chimed in, it's Justin Tucker, and it's not even close. And here we have a guy who was 1 of 6 now on his last 7 field goals of 50 or more. And we're talking about a guy who in years past walked out there and it was automatic. It wasn't even a debate, including that kick 2 years ago in Detroit, which was the record setter, which was a ridiculous kick. And you're like, of course Justin Tucker's going to make it. Now, I will say that a couple of years ago, in 2021, Harrison Butker, who's also a really good kicker, went through a phase where he had issues, not on the long kicks, but in the 30 to 35 range. For some reason, field goals, which were the length of extra points, Butker missed 5 of those one year. So these things tend to be cyclical, but, it is something, if you're a Ravens fan, it's like the Yankees having Mariano Rivera, right? He comes in, you pretty much knew the game was over. And now in those situations with those long kicks, for the first time that I can remember, there's a discussion or a debate about, is he going to make the kick?
It's fair. It's not a, you need to switch kickers. It's not a,
no.
It's just a, boy, we have been so used to anything inside of 61 being utterly automatic, and you can make decisions considering that, right? There's certain plays that you can call because of that, because you just know you've got 3 points, and I just think that we have to be honest about ourselves and say, and maybe that changes to your point, to say it's cyclical. Maybe he'll go 5 for 5 on his next 5 kicks beyond 50 yards, but in the moment, we can't ignore what it is that we've seen of late.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that bears scrutiny at this point until it doesn't.
Is there anything else to you, because again, as we started with this is all going to be determined by what happens these two teams get together again in January. What else can we learn during the course of the regular season, Trey? Because it feels like we're setting ourselves up for a very joyless couple of months in Baltimore, where nothing that happens matters. We're all just kind of meandering through as emotionless ghosts. What else can we actually learn about this football team that might tell us a little bit more about how things could go should they be back in the playoffs and back in this situation?
Well, I would say enjoy every single second of it because, remember what happened before Lamar was there, right? Remember I mean, like, he's an electric player, and you're going to win a lot of football games. Now, I get it. The obvious thing is to win the whole thing and break through. And someone floated out there, was it Lamar? Hey, we won in 2000, we won in 2012, and now it's 2024. It's
Yeah, every 12 years, right?
You know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, hang on to that.
And New Orleans has been good to the Ravens, right? Like,
that's exactly right. 34-31, Super Bowl 47. Yep. My favorite thing about that Super Bowl, besides the power outage, was Joe Flacco saying, "I'm going to run on the field and tackle him."
It's so great. It's so.
It's just one of the greatest things of all time.
Every now and then, Trey, and I don't know how well you've gotten to know Joe over the years. I've been blessed that I've had a great relationship with Joe over the years. It's just certain things that I forget sometimes about Joe. That like, God, I love that guy.
He's awesome. I mean, that was one of the best things of all time. You know, and I was so happy.
What are they going to do?
To see him come in.
Yeah,
I was so happy for Joe because I think the Jets made a huge mistake last season by not bringing Joe Flacco back as soon as Aaron Rodgers went down week 1, and the way Zach played sort of felt very much that was the right idea, and I felt validated by that. But I was happy to see Joe come in and do what he did for the Browns last year for sure.
All right, give me one team we're not talking about enough around the league that we should have. We should be giving them more credit as the season gets underway.
Well, this is sort of a stretch, but I'm gonna run with it because we feel like every year we have that team that goes from worst to first, right, and makes the playoffs. I mean, look at the Houston Texans last year. Nobody thought that they won 2 games the year before, and then they go 10-7, win the division, and win a playoff game. I'm looking at the Washington Commanders for a variety of reasons, and I know this may not fit well in Baltimore, but by rule, the Cowboys are out because nobody repeats in the NFC East. It hasn't happened in 20 seasons, and they won it last year. There's something iffy in Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts needs to get back to where he was a couple of years ago, and he's acknowledged that there's a rift between him and Nick Sirianni. And if everything was fine, they wouldn't have lost 6 or 7 down the stretch and choked away the division and got beaten by the Bucs in the postseason. So, something's not right there. So then it comes down to, well, the Giants are terrible, I believe, and I think Washington could be really interesting. I mean, Dan Quinn, I respect so much about what Dan Quinn did. He turned down head coaching jobs to stay with the Dallas Cowboys and get back to who he was as a coach, as a defensive coordinator, before he got the head coaching job in Atlanta. And I think it rejuvenated him, and I think that he'll make that defense better. I think there are pieces in Washington. Now, it all comes down to the rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels, who I am very high on. I remember seeing him at Arizona State when Herm Edwards, my guy, got him there, played really well for him. I've seen him step up and be really good in big moments. So if Jaden Daniels is as good as I think he is, I think Washington could surprise a lot of people this year.
I think you might be onto something, Trey. I'm a believer. That kid is talented as hell, man. I see it, and there's some parallels. I'm not trying to say he's Lamar because let's not do that, but there are some parallels there to me, and I think we're interested. All right, Trey, you got a new show that you're doing this season.
Yeah, it's fun. DraftKings Network. It's called the Pregame Power Up on Monday and Thursday nights, 6 o'clock Eastern on DraftKings Network. Myself, Claudio Bellafato, Emerson Latzia, and we're just going to get you a preview. And Marshall Newhouse, former offensive lineman for teams like the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers and played for the Patriots when they had Tom Brady. We're going to get you set for every primetime game during the season. We'll be at the Super Bowl all week as well. And we'll get your betting line sorted. We'll get your fantasy lineup set and just give you great insights on what to expect on these primetime games. And it's going to be every Monday and Thursday, 6 to 7 Eastern on DraftKings Network. And you can find that on Sling TV or YouTube or Google Play or Samsung TV Plus or Roku. It's available almost everywhere. So we're really looking forward to it.
And I see you've got a Lamar Jackson-themed episode of the podcast coming up.
Exactly right. We've got a bunch of those in the pipe, and it's going to be very, very interesting. So we're excited about that as well.
Alternate routes. You can check it out. At Wingo Z, of course, on Twitter is how you follow him. Trey, thank you for taking the time for us this morning, man. We really appreciate you.
Glenn, no problem, man. Always good to be with you guys.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Trey Wingo with us here on GCR. Stan, a little bit of a different schedule for you this past week. You only did the one show this week because of the holiday and then the football holiday. So, Stan...
Back Monday with Ross and Luke, and Thursday we'll have Eric Garfield on.
So back
talking
to a normal
Oriole
schedule
prospects. Yeah.
next week.
Yeah.
Monday, Stan Ross and Luke talking baseball in general and Orioles in general. And then next Thursday, Stan and Eric Garfield talking prospects and minor leagues.
That's probably going to run through the regular season and then move to like once a month.
Sure, there's just nothing.
As I go back to other sort of shows, information shows.
Facebook.com/PressBoxSports is where you can watch it. Click on the videos tab. You can go to YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video as well if you missed the shows live. When we come back in, we have not discussed baseball at all this morning because, of course, we've been football-centric. So we'll spend a few minutes as the Orioles get ready for a series against the Rays talking about that. Stan, I'll pose you this question. As of right now, what would your Orioles playoff rotation look like? Talk about that next. Stan is here. Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Want to improve your golf game or learn to play for the first time? The Baltimore Golf Academy has fun, instructional programs for the beginner golfer to everyday players. The Baltimore Golf Academy can take your game to the next level. Enroll today at BaltimoreGolfAcademy.com.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at DriveEasyMD.com.
Hagerstown, Maryland, a snapshot of American history that dates back centuries. Today, the roots of the city expand with another historical moment, the grand opening of Meredith Park, Hagerstown's new event stadium and home to the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Experience the energy, culture, and adventure. Plan your getaway today at America's newest and most innovative ballpark. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland. Visit Hagerstown.com.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their legendary fat, delicious, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. It's crab season, so sit back and crack some crabs while watching the Birds pursue another divisional title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday night, the Costas Inn offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with two sides for under $30. So head on down to the Costas Inn today at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Escape to Ocean City, Maryland, and discover a place that just feels lighter, where every day feels like Saturday and French fries are a food group, where flip-flops are always in fashion and seafood is always in season, where the boardwalk is bustling and the beach is right outside your door, where you can rise with the tide and feel like a kid again. Ocean City, Maryland, somewhere to smile about. Book your trip at OCOcean.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR. Stan the Fan Charles is in studio with us on a Friday edition of the program. And we have not talked baseball this morning because, obviously, we have been hyper-focused on the Ravens' season opening loss to the Chiefs last night.
That's been our point of emphasis.
Correct. That has been quite the point of emphasis. But much like the illegal formation thing, at some point we need to make sure that things even out a little bit and that we're not just making it nothing but Ravens. So let's spend a couple of minutes talking baseball this morning. Stan, I posed this question to you going into the break. You got to set the Ravens playoff rotation right now.
Orioles. You said Ravens.
See, that's how point of emphasis.
What would the Ravens rotation?
Yeah, what would the Ravens rotation look
like?
What
O-line rotation?
Right. You got to set the Orioles playoff rotation right now. Now, there's some complications to asking that question, right? So the first complication is, well, are we talking about, a wild card series? Or are we talking about a division series? Because in a wild card series, at most you would need 3 starting pitchers. But in a division series, you could potentially need 4. I would say, just for the fun of it, let's make it a division series. Let's assume you need 4 starting pitchers for your first series in the playoffs, and we'll go from there. And for what it's worth, at the moment, you are still a half game up on the Yankees. So if the season ended today, you would avoid the wild card series.
Well, I'm not going to include Grayson Rodriguez.
Well, that was the other.
It's looking more and more to me like he's going to miss significant enough time that ramping him back up to be a meaningful starting pitcher.
Interesting.
Seems like a lost pursuit to me. And perhaps a waste of where he can help the team the most.
So that's interesting to me because it felt like the news this week with Grayson Rodriguez and getting the bullpen session in was more encouraging to a lot of people that there was going to be time to get him.
You heard that he had a bullpen session?
Yep.
I heard he threw.
He had his first bullpen session on Wednesday afternoon.
Wednesday afternoon. Okay.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that.
Faced live batters.
I still think, again, because you don't need that many starters, I would say that Burns and Eflin obviously are going to be my 1-2 punch.
You would still, in what order?
Burns first.
Okay.
Although I love Eflin.
At the moment, I would absolutely try to stack it so that Eflin was mine.
I'm not going to play that game. I'm going to start Burns first and Eflin second. I would go with Kramer third, and it's pretty amazing he's going to pitch tonight. He's scheduled to pitch tonight.
I mean,
Yeah. And then 4, and again, I'm working on the premise that Rodriguez, if he returns, is used as a relief pitcher. That's how I'm pursuing this right now.
It's interesting you say that, right? Because I could see the argument for, boy, Grayson Rodriguez could be really fascinating for you as a reliever.
And I'm not talking about closing games.
Right.
I'm talking about the guy that comes in if Kramer or Burns gets kind of semi-lit up and gives up 3 or 4 runs after 2 2/3.
I think my problem is planning for that, is asking me to have faith in too many guys that I just don't have faith in to make my plans for Grayson Rodriguez to be a reliever if he's capable. To the point where
what guys aren't you counting? Are you talking about other pitchers?
Yeah, I'm talking about right now. Like Dean Kramer, we can say that Dean Kramer got hit with the pitch, but he was bad before that. Like, it was bad Dean Kramer last week. It was the same thing that you want to believe in Dean Kramer because he puts together a couple of good starts, and you say, man, things seem to be going the right way for Dean Kramer. And the Dean Kramer story is every time you go to throw your faith behind Dean Kramer, you end up with that. And so it's asking for a lot for me for Dean Kramer. Imagine you're starting a pivotal Game 3 in a division series to have faith in Dean Kramer being the guy that you're sending out there to do that. Albert Suarez, my God, you want to believe in that guy because...
Yeah, you do until he got racked
by the
3
Chicago
home
White
runs
Sox.
by the White Sox, right?
Like
this is not a zero-sum game, and it's not an exact science. I would have Kramer as my number 3 right now, and Suarez and Povich. I want to see how they pitch out the remainder of the month. I've been very impressed with Povich since he's come back up.
Well, obviously, the start the other night was, brilliant.
Yeah, I take into account
of course,
who
it's the White
against,
Sox. Yep.
But Suarez again had been fantastic for five in a row, and then he blows a tire against the White Sox. So There's just been something about the way Povich is going after his business right now. And again, not needing 4 or 5 starters in that early series, I'm probably going Kramer. And then if I need a fourth, again, it would be Povich or Suarez. And I would have Rodriguez up and ready to pitch in 2 of those games. You know.
By the way, it was 20 pitches. Did I say that for Grayson Rodriguez in the bullpen session on Wednesday? 20 pitches that he threw there.
That is a little promising, but it's already the 6th of September. He's missed, better part of a month now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I look, if he can't, if you get to the point where he can't, that's what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. I don't think I could feel comfortable enough with the rest of these starters to operate with the let's prioritize Grayson going to the bullpen and not continue to prioritize trying to ramp him up to make a start in the playoffs. There is too much, and you could say that Grayson Rodriguez is certainly not perfect either, and that he is, capable of.
No, if all things were equal, he would be my number 3. He would be my number 3.
Why still, it sounds like what you're saying is you're still not terribly concerned about Corbin Burns?
I'm not overly concerned with Corbin Burns. I'm not interested in having Corbin Burns back here next year.
Mm-hmm.
To me, he's a mercenary that will go somewhere. I mean, that's the way I feel. So I'm not that concerned about it. I still think his body of work, not his last 5 games, but his body of work in his career, say he's a number 1 starter. So we're splitting hairs here. I have him as my number 1 still, but Eflin is real close.
So there's been an interesting thing on Corbin Burns. Our friend Zach Moore has done a lot of work on it. Yeah. Has been in 3-2 counts completely reliant on the cutter, utterly completely reliant on the cutter to the point where everybody's just sitting on it now.
Yeah.
And that's been the thing that not individually has created the problems for Corbin Burns, but in trying to.
I'm more concerned not with what he throws on 3 and 2. I'm more concerned with why he gets to 3 and 2. I don't like his mental process of how he pitches. He's ahead 0 and 2. It seems like on 85% of the hitters, and you blink, and all of a sudden it's 3 and 2, and you're going why? And he throws non-competitive pitches, trying to get them to chase, and they're non-competitive pitches. They're not sophisticated waste pitches. They're like, okay, here,
not
swing
even
at that.
Right.
It's just, it seems like everybody he gets to 0 and 2, he ends up at least 2 and 2, and then a lot of 3 and 2s.
So I agree.
Yeah,
I do agree with that.
So you're saying, well, why would I pitch him over?
Over Zach Eflin, who doesn't
I'm
throw
thinking
balls.
in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I'm thinking in the playoffs he pitches with a little more urgency.
Just to finish, so Burns in a 3-2 count, and this is after the last start. 92 cutters and a total of 34 of all of his other pitches in 3-2 counts this season. And teams
so it's like 3 out of 4 he's throwing.
Yeah, it's legitimately 3 out of 4 are cutters at this point, and guys are just sitting on cutters and finding success because of it in these 3-2 counts. Which, again, to your point, don't get into a 3-2 count to begin with, and we don't have to have this conversation, but certainly is something that stands out for me. I, at the moment, would be inclined to say I'm throwing Zach Eflin in Game 1 because he's just been that consistent and that good, and especially in that potential 5-game scenario in a division series where only one guy would end up turning around to make a second start at the moment. Yeah. I would want that to be Zach Eflin. Now, to your point, it could very well be that over the next 3 weeks, Corbin Burns looks a lot more like Corbin Burns than I say, all right, what are we doing here? I was overthinking this, and Corbin Burns should be the Game 1 starter. Yeah. And then the other interesting part would be, what does this look like in a potential if you are in a wild card series, who's the odd man out? Are you that committed to Dean Kramer because he's the veteran, he's the bulldog, he's the guy that if your season's on the line in Game 3 of a wild card series, you want him to be the one on the mound? I'd
have to know a little bit more about how Rodriguez is coming along. I've been working under the supposition that he was not going to get back to be a starting pitcher, but we'll see. Maybe they feel it's more important to get him to start games and go 4 innings, then worry about it.
Yeah, I guess I would have to think about like how much they feel like they could ramp him back up over the next couple of weeks to make 2 starts before the season is over.
I don't see any way that's going to happen. So, anyway, we'll see.
I don't know if they said when he would be in line to throw again after throwing the Wednesday. I don't know what the plan would be.
If he threw Wednesday, I would guess Sunday or Sunday in Baltimore.
Right, and so if he can throw 35, 40 pitches, then then we have that conversation about the possibility of him getting back to that point. But yeah, I would also probably say that in the circumstance, even if it was, hey, we think there's a limit, we think we can get 75 pitches out of Grayson in that scenario, I'd probably be inclined to say get your 75 pitches out of Grayson and then see where you are and go from there. In that spot, if it was a wild card series and a decisive Game 3 at that point.
I just think he comes in a third or fourth inning of a game and carries you for 3 1/3 innings, and you get 35 pitches. He doesn't have to show a lot of breaking pitches. He just really comes in and terrorizes other teams for a couple of games.
Yes, Griffin?
If I think I'm with Stan. If the season ended today, I think I would still go Burns 1, Eflin 2. If this trend of the last couple weeks does continue, and Eflin continues.
Look, if this trend continues with Corbin Burns, it's a far bigger.
If
this trend continues.
Well, let's say more like the White Sox, where it's like maybe 6 innings, 2 earned runs, or five innings. Maybe he only goes 5 but doesn't allow a run, or no earned runs, or something like that. But yeah, I mean, now it's looking like Eflin could very much be kind of the Eovaldi of the Orioles.
One of the things about Burns is, and this comes into the Rodriguez thing, if you know that you really are definitely getting 5 innings out of Burns, not 6, not 7 1/3, but 5 innings, who do you want in the middle of that game? Keegan Aiken, Albert Suarez, or do you want Grayson Rodriguez, for innings 6 and 7, maybe 8, to me, you've got it's the way that teams used to use Miller, Andrew Miller a little bit. He wasn't just a 1 or 2 batter guy. He was like a 2-inning guy for a while.
I hear everything you're saying, and I do think
and Tampa used David Price that way.
Originally, yeah. The trade-off for me only being, but then who's starting that third? And where is my confidence level in the guy that's got to start the game that Grayson Rodriguez isn't starting? And
remember when Tampa used, I couldn't cite chapter and verse who their starting pitchers were. David Price was better than anybody they were starting. It was sort of like, we know what we got here, that he's going to be really dominant for 2 to 3 innings. And that, to me, is that turns Grayson. I'm not saying projecting this for his career. I'm saying in a short window of a month, and this is also the second time he's been injured this year, where he's had to take like a total pause in his season. I think I'd err on the side of a little caution with him.
Again, and I'll go back to, if physically he can't, then it's not even worth having the conversation. To me, it's just the flip side of, what are my options for prioritizing that for Grayson Rodriguez? I hear how it can be I think it could be extraordinarily valuable. Yeah. It's just what does that leave me? What are my alternatives if that's the way that I end up prioritizing Grayson Rodriguez? To the same point, is it possible that ultimately that's the way that you could use Cade Povich if he's pitching well, that you could say, we think we can get 2 really good innings out of Cade Povich on a playoff roster, and he could be helpful in that way? We're not sure how much we trust him with the bright
rookie in close game. Close game you'd be bringing him into, not dominating stuff. I'm talking about a guy that could be that makes sense on a couple different levels. Is that you control pitch count with Grayson. He doesn't have to throw a lot of his breaking pitches. He can just come in and fire for 2 to 3 innings, knowing that he's not worried about going 80, 90 pitches. And also, in a 5-game series, he could impact 2 games, not
that
1
part,
game.
That part is valuable, and I don't disagree with that. Again, is the trade-off that you go stick Dean Kramer out there for the game that he doesn't start, and does he get his brains beat in the 3rd inning, and then what was the value of holding on to Grayson Rodriguez? And that's the tricky part of the conversation for me, is that I want so badly to believe in and have faith in Dean Kramer.
I understand.
It's one of the most infuriatingly frustrating things about this team. Everyone in this town likes Dean Kramer.
Yep.
He's got an awesome mentality. You love the way he approaches the game. There's so much to like about Dean Kramer, and then he'll go look brilliant. He'll just look great. And then
for 2 or 3 games, and then all of a sudden you go revert back to a different Kramer.
It's right back to the same thing, and that's the frustrating part about it.
It's like Seinfeld. It's all about
Kramer.
Kramer.
It's all about Kramer. And then when you say to me like, well, game 3 you might start. I'm like, yeah, like yeah. And I get the playoffs is a different animal because you're inclined to say, dude, the moment you get in trouble, you're not. Finishing us. You get in trouble, we're just going to go get you.
Go look at the Yankees right now. I know we're talking about the Orioles, but they're going to have Cole and Rodon, and then after that,
and Rodon's hit or miss.
You like pitching Marcus Stroman in game 3?
Certainly don't.
Nestor Cortez, I guess.
Nestor Cortez would be
almost certainly be their 3rd at this point.
But his earned run average is still not good. Well, no, actually, he's got it in the 3s.
It's what it is, man.
Do you almost hope Kramer has like 1 or 2 kind of really rough starts heading into the playoffs, just because
get him out of the way, get the bag.
You he's due for a bounce.
That's how we decide. He gets roughed up, and then I'm like, you know what? Stands on to something. Start game 3. He's due. Get him out there.
Everyone's against him right now.
Everybody else is saying, how can you put that guy in your rotation?
I'm not a big do theory guy.
No.
That's the one thing I learned in gambling.
Yeah, right. Like
Team loses 8 in a row. They're not due to win on game 9.
They might just be bad. It's possible.
The White Sox were due on Wednesday night, though.
As it turns out,
they had lost 12 in a row.
Yeah.
They were due. That's when you're due. It's when you get the 12.
Yeah, it's 12. What's the number?
100%. It's when you get the 12. Then you know it's time. Now ride the White Sox hard at that point. Orioles Rays this weekend here in Baltimore, including, of course, tonight is Cal Ripken's splash night. And what would that match be on that? The 29th?
29th
anniversary of 21-31.
Yeah. Of tying, right? Tying the record.
No.
It's breaking.
21-31 was September 6th. I know that for very personal reasons.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Thanks, Griffin.
You're welcome. It's your, 41st anniversary?
It's my 41st anniversary. That is correct.
Is it your birthday?
Today is my birthday, yes.
Oh, God.
Today is my birthday.
Here's the leftover
Thank you, buddy.
water I had.
That's really thoughtful of you. Almost as thoughtful as my wife said, how about on Sunday you take the kids to the state fair because you didn't do it last weekend? Happy birthday to me.
Sounds fun.
That sounds great.
Get it done before 1, I guess.
My wife remembers there was a time in my life where I loved the campy state fair. Like I loved going and drinking some beers, and I would go. They would do the pig races, and we would bet on the pig races with the boys. And we would go. I mean, like we did all of the campy stuff at the state fair, and we loved it. It was awesome. They want to go and get on the crap rides. And it costs like $1,000 for them to get on rides that if we were at like Hershey Park and I said, hey, bud, you should get on the Tilt-A-Whirl, they'd say, no chance in hell. But at the state fair, all of a sudden, they don't just want to get on. They're willing to wait in an hour-long line to get on the crap ride that might fall apart.
What a great father you are.
I'm not sure if I'm going to... I played the card. I did. I said to my wife, it is my birthday weekend.
There's a new Twizzler ride coming out.
Well, actually, at Hershey
Twisted
Park,
Gravity.
I'm sure I would enjoy it because they have good rides.
Now, do they like big roller coasters?
That's infuriating, Stan, because when they were like very young and they didn't know any better, they were all in. They were so excited by it. Now, we went, I don't remember where we went, but they were like terrified. They were just, I don't think I want to do this. Yeah. I don't think I want to.
Their mom grew them up smart.
Is that what it is?
Yep.
Is that but instead they want to get on the Tilt-A-Whirl. They want to get on the whatever these god-awful rides are at the state fair. And I'm going to be the bad dad if I overrule and say I don't want to do. I said maybe we go to the Towson game tomorrow night, right? Towson Morgan, that'll be a lot of fun. She said, "Oh, I thought we would have your birthday dinner tomorrow night, and then we go to the fair on Sunday."
So
what time's the tennis?
You have to educate me, I guess. There's no
2 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
2.
2.
Right? Let me double check.
There's no way you can say I'd rather do
Isn't it
this.
4?
2.
Isn't it like
It's 2.
2
They used to
o'clock?
do it at 4 because they moved it to ABC this year. Is going to air the men's final.
Okay.
And they're airing at 2 o'clock on
And
Sunday.
when is the women's final? Saturday night?
That is still 4 o'clock.
Oh.
That is still on Saturday.
On Saturday.
On Saturday, but it's at 4 o'clock.
And both men's semifinals are today.
3 and 7 for
And
men's
Sinner's
semifinals.
playing.
Sinner's the first one.
He's playing
Jack Draper.
And
then Tiafo Taylor Fritz is the 7 o'clock one. So
7
it's under the lights and you get the atmosphere.
Arthur Ashe.
That's the idea there. What did you?
I was just trying to figure out if I guess there's no way to solve your weekend plans.
I don't know what to do, man. Like either I'm going to have to be a jerk and say no, I'm not doing
How
this.
about taking a
It's your
COVID
birthday.
test? Take a
So
COVID
that
test.
you don't understand. This actually was supposed to be the way last Monday. Last Monday, I was going to get roped into taking the kids to the state fair.
Right.
Ooh, I'm seething about this. So on last Sunday, I had plans. We had the fantasy draft with the boys. It's the league that I've been in for forever. It's a very important day on the calendar. You get to see your friends, the whole deal. So she said, "I'll take the kids to the state fair." I said, "Great. You take the kids to the state fair." So Sunday night, I'm home, and my older son says to me, "Well, you can take us to the fair tomorrow." I said, "What the hell? You went to the fair today. What are we? We don't do back-to-back days of the. What do you think this is?"
Right to his face. What the hell?
Yeah, right. Who do you think you are? And he said, "Oh, we went, but we didn't ride the rides." So
Oh,
I
my goodness.
come back out. I come barging out of the room. What? I said, what are you doing? She said, "Oh, we just looked at the animals." You paid for admission to the fair and just went and looked at the animals. And now you want me to pay admission again for the
kids
fair?
free? Are kids
No, they're not free, Stan. You want me to pay more fair admission tomorrow? No.
You put your foot down.
So she said, "Well, they really want to ride the rides. I promised them they could ride them." Sunday happens. I wake up. I'm sick as a dog. I mean, sick as a dog. I had to work the morning show over on 105.7. I could not stand. I had to walk. It was bad. And I said, "I'm sorry, there will be no fair." And I just thought that was the end of it. Look, the only good thing that came from I didn't want to have a day of puking and the other thing. I didn't want that. But there is one good thing that came out of it.
No fair.
Yeah, sneezing. No fair. All good. And I swear to God, I get this text to me. Happy birthday. How about we do dinner tomorrow and then we go to the fair?
That's grounds for
Well, I don't.
divorce.
No, you don't have to go there.
And I don't know.
I mean, I guess I haven't been in this situation.
I don't
but-
know how to tell. I really am convinced that part of this is she still thinks that I enjoy going to the fair. That I'm 25-year-old Glenn Clark was all in on drinking beers at the state fair. It was a great time. 41-year-old Glenn Clark,
Not into that.
hell. Don't want to do it. The feeling of it is hell to me.
Have you ever thought of rewriting Griffin's job description?
Say he's got to take the kids to the fair on Monday or on Sunday. That's the way that it works. You said when I took.
I mean, if you pay me, I guess I'll.
Yeah, right. When I took a job in Phoenix.
Been a
So when
while.
I left the first time I left 105.7 in 2008 to take the job in Phoenix at 101.5 KZON, I was 2006. I was 23 years old. I show up the first night. They say, "Hey, here's your assistant, CJ," and I said, "What?"
You have
Now,
assistants.
it speaks to how different radio was in 2006 that I showed up as the executive producer of a show and executive producer co-host of a show, and they said, "You have an assistant." I said, "Like an assistant producer?" They were like, "Well, kind of, but really more like your assistant."
It's like you're lackey.
Yeah, I'm like, "Really?" They're like, "Yeah, you can work I think 32 hours a week or something. Like,
Wow.
it was some, like, you can, whatever. And I'm like, okay. So I straight shoot CJ, who I still love to this day, is still a good friend. It was only like 2 years younger than me. We were basically the same age. I was 23. CJ, I would send him, like, my then girlfriend would be like, oh, I just want to go to the mall on Saturday and go shopping. And I would say, wow, that's weird because they play college football on Saturday. And so I would, not kidding, Stan.
I'll be at the football
I would
game
call
with
CJ and say, Siege, I got your plans for Saturday. You're going to the mall with my girlfriend. And he would. And she would, like, buy him a Frappuccino and stuff like that. Like, she
Are
would
they
treat
married
him.
today?
I don't think they ever ended up. Wouldn't have bothered me. But God, man, what a time that was. I don't think that I can do the same with Griffin. Unfortunately, we have a very limited number of hours that I'm able to have Griffin work, so I don't think I can charge that to the company dime to have him take the kids to the fair on Sunday.
I'm open to it.
We'll talk about it off the air. When we
It'd
come
have to
back
be
in.
early, though. I wanted to be, like, close to done with the fair as close to 1 as possible, you know.
Oh, you want to go like at 8 in the morning?
Yeah, exactly.
And knock all of that
Yeah,
out.
I wanna knock it all
and
out
then
early.
be able to watch football the rest of the day. Yeah, the kids don't appear to be
I'll
as
take one
concerned.
everything.
The kids found out that the TV game on Sunday is Buccaneers Commanders. That's the game we're allowed to watch at 4:00 is Buccaneers Commanders.
Well, according to Trey.
Yeah, I
It'll be an
know the
interesting
Commanders
game.
are going to be very interesting. Also,
Exactly.
I do think I saw that most cable providers have a free Red Zone preview this weekend, so that should be an option for everybody.
Yeah, so according to Trey, I think the live casino is where you want to be.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more about why.
Because
Griffin.
when Washington or Baltimore's football teams score a touchdown at every
you
home game.
specifically want to be there at about 4:25
Exactly,
on Sunday.
exactly. And
You
every
have
time
to
Jane
be-
Daniels is trotting in the end zone.
I just want to be clear on this. Do you have to be already playing slots?
Correct. You got to be sitting on the slot machine, have your live rewards card
And what do
inserted
they
into the slot
announce?
machine.
Do they announce over the?
Well, once they score, it'll be
Immediately.
yeah,
You don't do
$7 of
you don't
slot
do anything
play.
else.
Yeah,
It's just suddenly if you got $4 left on your
Yep,
slot, thing,
you'll
all of a
look
sudden
and
it's
it'll say
$11.
Exactly,
100%.
exactly. It's valid for
Yeah.
slot play only, and you have to actively be playing.
What if I'm actively
while
playing like 4 or 5 slot machines?
Do you have 4
Yeah,
live
5.
rewards
I
cards?
don't think you're allowed to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you have 4 live rewards cards, I don't know.
You're
how
allowed to play on
allowed.
one more than one.
We're supposed to be doing a commercial here, and I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to have more than 1 live rewards card. So
anytime Baltimore or Washington score touchdowns during their home games, you want to be playing slots because Live Rewards members will receive $7 of free slot play. It's at Arona Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
When we come,
But a husband and wife could be playing.
yes, and they would
And
both.
they both have
yes,
reward cards.
Make it
1,000%. When we come back in, we'll get a tidbit and tubular wind down for a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Experience the thrill of the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, coming October 17th to the 20th. See the world's best equestrians compete in the sport of eventing, the ultimate test of horse and rider. Enjoy a weekend festival featuring locally sourced food at the Fresh Food Fest, a beer, wine, and spirits showcase, shopping, and fun for all ages. Check out the Maryland Corgi Cup, interactive kids corner, and more. It's the place to be in October. Visit maryland5star.us for tickets.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their legendary fat, delicious, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. It's crab season, so sit back and crack some crabs while watching the Birds pursue another divisional title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday night, the Costas Inn offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30. So head on down to the Costas Inn today at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasin.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Baltimore's Classic 5 golf courses make golf fun and affordable. All 5 local courses, Pine Ridge, Mount Pleasant, Forest Park, Carroll Park, and Clifton Park, are challenging and fun for players of all skill levels. Book your tee time today at classic5golf.com.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, And fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka profiles Ravens star safety Kyle Hamilton, detailing his path from growing up the son of a basketball player to choosing football, being overlooked in the draft, and turning into a defensive unicorn as a playmaking Swiss Army knife in the NFL. Also inside, meet college football players from all of the area's D1 programs and some of the area's college soccer standouts as well. PressBox is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores. Or you can read the entire issue at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right. Hey, I know we would have loved to have been celebrating a Week 1 win, but still, first opportunity for you to get out and hang out with us. And Arthur Millette for the Arthur Millette Show this coming Tuesday night. We'll be at the Hamilton Sports Bar and Grill on Harford Road with Arthur and a special guest. Can't wait to see you. We're doing it all season long. You can find out more at PressBoxOnline.com/Millette. It's all brought to you by 1-800-GAMBLER and by Easy Pass. The Arthur Millette Show, first show of the season, Tuesday night, the Hamilton Sports Bar and Grill on Harford Road. We will see you there for the Arthur Millette Show. All right. We don't need to harp on it anymore. Let's just go ahead and get a tidbit.
We didn't get to do Twib.
I didn't think we were doing Twib because it was
now it's football season, so baseball's over.
It's kind of the way that it normally go.
Right, Fernando Tatis is back. That's a big one. Wyatt Langford, we're big fans of him. He killed the Yankees.
Thank you for that.
Parker Meadows had a big hit last night. That was cool. Probably no one saw that because it was baseball and football was on.
Yes, that's the reality of this. That's why we didn't do I mean, look, we could talk about it if there's room. It's difficult, particularly on the day after a Ravens game.
Yeah.
Maybe next Friday there might be room. We'll see how it goes. It's going to have to be a play it by ear. It's football season, babe. It's what it is.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
All right, what you got?
Also, Kylie McDaniel reported that Seth Johnson will be making the start for the Phillies on Sunday, or at least is scheduled to do so. Yeah. So he will make his Major League debut for the Philadelphia Phillies.
Although that one doesn't look quite as bad, obviously, as it did a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's not like talking about the Norby thing. Like that is painful.
The Cubs threw a no-hitter as well earlier.
Yeah, combined no-hitter, yes. Imanaga threw like 7 innings, right?
Yes, and then it was Nate Pearson and Porter Hodge.
Sure. It's a no-hitter. I mean, it happened.
All right, so let's hold on. I think there was a couple littler. That's definitely a word. Okay, so wide receivers. Xavier Worthy falls into this category. Wide receivers with a rush touchdown of 20 yards or more and a receiving touchdown of 30 yards or more in a game the last 20 seasons. It has happened. He became the fourth player to do this in a game in the last 20 years. 20-yard rushing touchdown, 30-yard receiving touchdown. Any idea who the other three might be? 4 of 5. Including Xavier Worthy, we're playing for head coach Andy Reid.
Okay, so Deshaun Jackson.
Deshaun Jackson twice.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
Tyreek Hill?
Yes, Tyreek Hill in 2020. Deshaun Jackson did it twice. Tyreek Hill in 2020.
I mean, those numbers don't make sense for Jeremy Maclin, but I'll try Jeremy Maclin anyway.
Not Jeremy Maclin. The other one not coached by. So, because Deshaun Jackson counted as sorry. So it happened 5 times, twice by Deshaun Jackson.
So now it's someone
that was
who's
why I made
not.
it confusing. But yeah, so someone not coached.
Give me the numbers one more time.
20-yard rushing touchdown, 30-yard receiving touchdown.
But it was from a wide receiver.
Wide receiver, correct? Yes, from a wide receiver.
That's so unique.
Comes from Jack Andrade from NFL Research.
I have no idea.
It was 2020.
Great.
Cleveland Brown.
Yeah, nothing that happened in 2020 was real, Griffin. It wasn't real.
This occurrence happened twice.
I don't think it was
Tyreek
Amari
Hill
Cooper.
It was not Amari Cooper.
It
was another wide
requires me.
receiver.
Is Jarvis Landry still with the Browns?
Well, maybe he was, but it wasn't him. It's another LSU.
Oh, Odell?
Yes, Odell
Okay.
Beckham had this game in 2020 against
I
Dallas.
don't remember a touchdown run from Odell Beckham in 2020, but
Players to have 270 yards passing and 120 yards rushing in a game.
Yeah, I saw this one
in NFL history.
0-7.
No, well maybe that's a different stat.
Say it again.
Players to have 270 yards passing and 120 yards rushing in a game.
Hang on. I saw a different number it was concerning. Hang on a second.
This one's not so much concerning. It's just crazy. It's from Blake Wary of NFL Research as well.
Let me pull this number up. This is from Mike Jarecki, who I know because he was a radio show host out in Phoenix.
Mine's not really a question because it's kind of a trick question.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just
hang on. Oh, it's just Lamar's done all of them?
Yeah,
All
Lamar.
right,
It's happened 3 times. Lamar's done it all 3 times.
All's Lamar. I guess he's now doing a show called Arizona Football Daily covering the Cardinals. Since December 2021, there have been 7 instances of an NFL quarterback passing for 250 or more yards and rushing for 80 or more yards in a game. The quarterbacks are 0-7 in those games.
Wow.
Yeah, you think you can...
So
there's only 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah. Well, okay. So Lamar's done it 3 times.
Yes.
And I have the dates of exactly when he did it. So it was the when they lost the Titans.
But this is 250 and 80. These are slightly different numbers than your numbers were.
Well, yeah. This was 270 and 120.
So you would have to have done both. Yeah.
Yeah. So 2019 against the Titans when they lost the Titans, and then it was week 2 of 2019. So was that the Browns when they lost to the Browns that week?
I don't. Griffin, you're really asking.
And then last night. The other ones?
Yeah.
They're 0-7.
Throwing for 250, rushing for 80.
Michael Vick.
No, since 2021. Since
Since
December 2021.
Daniel Jones.
No.
Darn. 250 rushing for 80. It's happened 7 times. So Lamar's has 3 of them.
Yes.
Or not 3 of them.
I said 3 of them.
Oh, he does.
Yes. Okay. The 2 other quarterbacks have combined for the other 4.
Jalen Hurts?
Nope.
80 yards rushing. Not Daniel Jones.
1 is...
Kyler Murray.
Nope. 1 should be literally your next guess. I can't believe you haven't gotten there.
Josh Allen.
Thank you. The other one, you're like, what? And then you like it makes sense, but you just don't remember him having had the opportunity to do it.
Ryan Tannehill?
Not Ryan Tannehill.
He was always like a sneaky runner. So not Joe Flacco.
Not Joe Flacco. Certainly, yeah. Sneaky, yes. Very sneaky.
I think he ever came close to 80.
A lot of different ways that we went about using, not saying the word white.
With this guy or what?
No.
You're talking Joe?
Well, this guy I will give you is white.
Josh Allen, Lamar, and quarterback. 80.
You might have drafted him in your fantasy league this year. You might have, but not to play quarterback.
Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill.
Okay.
Taysom Hill is the other one.
All right.
Taysom Hill.
Lamar. So Lamar recorded his 14th career game rushing 100 yards. It is puts him into tied for 10th most since he came into the league in 2018. Can you name? I guess I'll give it to you. They're all running backs. Can you name the top 9 running backs most 100-yard rushing games since 2018? Or we can do top 5. I guess it's getting late.
You said they're all running backs?
Mm-hmm.
Most 100-yard rushing games since 2019. 2018.
Yes.
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry's number 1. 36 100-yard rushing games.
Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley is 8th. 17. So less than half of Derrick Henry.
I mean, that's true. Nick Chubb.
Nick Chubb is number 2. 30 100-yard rushing games.
Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor is up there. He's 9th, actually, 16.
Okay. It's still somehow Zeke.
Yep. Ezekiel at 18, top 6. Tied for 5th, actually.
McCaffrey.
McCaffrey, yes, he is 3rd. Henry Chubb McCaffrey, 22 100-yard rushing games.
I'll still say Dalvin.
Dalvin is 4. Henry Chubb McCaffrey, Dalvin.
I got 7. How many was supposed to get?
I guess we can do the full top 9. I think there's two left in the top 9.
2 left in the top 9. 2 left. Kamara?
Not Alvin Kamara. Kamara, 7 since 2018 was because he played before.
He did, but it's still a little.
Yeah.
Still a little surprising.
Just missed a little bit of time in there.
Josh Jacobs?
Josh Jacobs is 7th. 17, tied with Saquon.
And then there's one more.
1,800-yard rushing games.
One more, and I don't think it's Eckler.
It is not Eckler.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Let's see. Eckler is less than 7.
This is not Aaron Jones?
Aaron Jones.
Okay.
It is, in fact, Aaron Jones. 1,800-yard rushing games, tied with Lamar at 14, James Conner, and Joe Mixon.
How about that? All right, let's get totally tubular for the weekend.
There is a place where tradition, family, and community gather, where the aspirations of talented young competitors takes root, and where the crossroads of history, culture, and renewal come together. This spring, experience America's newest and most innovative ballpark, Meritus Park in Hagerstown, Maryland, home of the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Plan your getaway today. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland.
All right, here we go. Big, busy weekend, even with the Ravens already having played. Masson tonight, Rays Orioles 7:05. Shane Baz and Dean Kramer, the pitching matchup. It's also the MLB TV free game of the day if you don't live in the area. Tomorrow, 4:05, Ryan Pepio and Zach Eflin, and it's also on ESPN Plus if you don't live in the area. It's Masson. Actually, sorry, it's not all Masson. It's Masson today and tomorrow. Don't forget, Sunday, 12:05. The game is on Roku on Sunday. Zach Littell and Corbin Burns. Is there a rule that they can't start before noon? Is that why they do it at noon? Was the Yankees game before noon?
Well, I feel like at least one of these games started at 11:30.
Okay.
I can't confirm it, but off the top of my head, it feels like it did.
I don't have the answer. Anyway, 12:05 on Sunday. And again, Zach Littell and Corbin Burns. Soccer tonight, Big Ten Network Plus, Brown and Maryland at 7:30.
Towson, a big draw. Towson women, big draw
yes,
with Maryland.
I saw that. UMBC Old Dominion, 7 o'clock on Old Dominion's website. Loyola hosts St. Joe's at 7 o'clock on ESPN+. Of course, tonight, the Sao Paulo game on Peacock, Packers-Eagles at 8:15. ESPN for the U.S. Open men's semifinals, 3 o'clock, Yannick Sinner and Jack Draper. And then at 7 o'clock tonight, Francis Tiafoe and Taylor Fritz. And that's about everything that matters for today. Tomorrow, college football, Michigan State, Maryland, 3:30 on Big Ten Network. CBS Sports Network for Temple Navy at 3:30. Morgan and Towson at 6 o'clock on Monumental. I'd like to go. I don't know if that's going to be an option for me or not. Hopkins opens the season at Ithaca tomorrow at 1. You can watch that on their website. PLL semifinals tomorrow, ESPN Plus, 5 o'clock. Maryland Whipsnakes, New York New York Atlas for a spot in the championship. The U.S. Open Women's Championship tomorrow at 4 on ESPN. Arena Sabalenka and Jessica Pegula. Big college football tomorrow, Fox for Texas, Michigan at noon. And at Tennessee, NC State, of course, the Duke's Mayo Bowl Classic. You throw out all the
Everyone's
going to
be watching Colorado, Nebraska, but yeah,
sure,
that'll be on.
I don't even know what channel Colorado, Nebraska is
NBC,
on.
I believe.
It's on NBC. Oh, because it's a Big Ten
Big
game.
Ten.
What a bizarro world we're living in. Colorado, Nebraska is
NBC having college football.
Colorado. There was a time where Colorado, Nebraska was a big game because they were the best teams in the Big Eight.
Big game tomorrow.
Definitely not that.
What is?
It was a big game in what was then known as the Big Eight, which ultimately became the Big 12. And it was normally Thanksgiving week that they would play Colorado, Nebraska. And those teams were typically always very good, and they were a championship because Colorado, in the early 90s, Colorado won one title, Nebraska won 2 titles. So, Colorado, Nebraska was a big deal.
Now Nebraska, Iowa play on Black Friday every year.
Is that I didn't even know
at least
that.
the last couple
I got to be
years they
honest with you.
have.
I didn't know that was a thing. Now, Nebraska's in the Big Ten. Colorado left the Big 12 and then came back to the Big 12. Just a bizarro world, man.
Can't escape it.
Yeah, you can't escape them.
Dylan Bucka fights tomorrow night as well.
On the UFC card?
Yes, he does.
What is the...
He's the second fight.
That's on ESPN Plus.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
that's
on
a
ESPN
fight
Plus, so he'll probably fight around like 4:30.
Okay. All
About hopefully, hopefully he can scratch one out here.
Should he?
He is a substantial underdog, plus 215.
Okay.
Plus 215.
All
But
right.
he's got some hope.
All
He's
right.
fighting a guy 10 years older than him, and he's been knocked out twice in 2 of his last 3 fights. So maybe
Fair enough.
you can hope that those guys cleaned off the chin a little bit for him, and he can, stumble into a shot here. But
good.
That
doesn't sound great.
If I was handicapping, I would.
Doesn't sound great for him staying in the UFC.
I believe he would have one more fight after this, and then
Yeah.
they could kind of make that decision.
ABC U.S. Open men's final at Sunday at 2:00. The local TV games in the NFL: Fox, Steelers, Falcons 1, Commanders, Buccaneers at 4:25. So as Griffin points out, we will be missing Tom Brady's debut in the booth here locally. CBS has Patriots, Bengals at 1 o'clock locally on Sunday, and of course everybody gets Rams, Lions Sunday at 8:20 on NBC. Everything else, GlennClarkRadio.com is where you can find it. Anything that stands out non-sports-wise?
Let's see, non-sports-wise. Rebel Ridge on Netflix.
By the way, I
It's a
tried
new
watching
movie.
an episode of English Teacher. I don't think
Who recommended it
it's
to
for
you?
me. A bunch of people said
Oh, they
like
did?
it seemed like the type. And then we talked about you said it. The people made like what we do in the
Atlanta,
shadows, and
and
I'm
What We Do in
like
the Shadows.
that's encouraging, but it's to me less comedy, more nonsense. Like it's not enough comedy.
Well, one episode, right?
I'll
Or
keep
2, I
watching.
guess.
I don't quit anything. Everybody knows that about me.
Maybe you should.
I definitely should.
So Rebel Ridge, it looks like it looks like Reacher. Someone described it as a black Reacher. I think that's a fair what's the description of it? It's an ex-Marine in a small town, and he gets this black ex-Marine gets robbed by a police officer. And he's trying to use money to bail his brother out of jail, and then he starts fighting everybody. It looks pretty cool.
I'm in.
Yeah, it looks pretty.
I mean,
cool.
I'm not gonna watch, but I like the premise.
You might want to check out The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives on Hulu.
Oh.
Yeah, new series on Hulu.
I want to watch that Apollo 13 thing.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
on
I
Netflix.
do wanna watch that.
You can watch The Deliverance came out last week, but everyone should go watch it again and skip to the 10-minute mark. My friend Ian is in it.
Oh, okay.
He's
good
in
for
there
you.
for he's got like 2 minutes of screen time.
Is he a big star, or is he
he might want
just
not
a guy?
In the movie.
No, I mean like is he on his way? Is he?
I mean, who knows?
Is he trying
He's
to
already- he's
act,
now.
or did he
Yes.
just? Okay,
Yes.
all right. That's
He
what I was
is.
trying to figure
Yes.
out. Yeah.
And then I guess the biggest one will be on HBO at 8 tomorrow night is the David Chase in The Sopranos.
Oh right,
documentary.
yeah, definitely.
Yes, so that looks like it.
I have so
it'll be
many
good.
things to watch.
I know there's a lot.
So much tennis and college
Gotta
football
watch
and
UFC,
and-
Nebraska,
and-
Colorado.
Right, yeah, those
Sopranos
things aren't
right
gonna.
here.
They're not
I guess
gonna
the
be.
Orioles. What time do the Orioles play?
Yeah,
4
the Orioles are at 4 tomorrow.
Okay,
That's
so
a problem for me because that's up against the Maryland and Navy
Whipsnakes
games.
are probably-
Couldn't have put those games, either of those games at noon tomorrow. Couldn't have had one of the 2 games at noon tomorrow.
Towson's playing at 6.
I just realized like between my kids' soccer games, I have time in the afternoon. I'm like, just one game would have been nice. Would have been nice. All right. Thanks today to Stan the Fan. Thanks also to Bo Smolka and to Trey Wingo. We'll get all that up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com.
And a wild card race heating up would have covered that.
What's that?
Twit, by the way. And a wild card race, crazy. Like I think everyone's tied, like Mets, Braves, whoever the other ones are, Padres,
Whoever
D-backs.
the other ones are.
Padres, D-backs.
That was going to be Twib. Hey, you guys, crazy wild card race. Mets, Braves, somebody else, I think.
Padres and
This week in
D-backs.
baseball. Regular Mel Allen over here.
discombobulated.
Oh, man. All right.
I didn't hear. If I heard the music, I would have nailed it.
Everything would have been
Yeah.
fine then. That's a good point, actually. We blame the music. Are you going to work on some of the other opens?
Yeah, I record. I can play some of the
Oh.
recordings I play for you. You're not gonna like them.
I don't know. We'll see. Sometimes it's just better to not.
Kind of. Yeah.
to
Well, yeah,
let
because
me-
then I
Yeah,
can
right?
say
Yeah,
I put a
yeah.
lot of thought
Yeah,
and effort
exactly
into
right.
this. You're not making me redo it.
Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including the Maryland 5-Star Live Casino and Hotel. Visit Hagerstown in Washington County, Cruise, Maryland, Baltimore's Classic 5 Golf Courses, Ocean City, Easy Pass, Royal Farms, the Ed Block Courage Awards, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Costas in, MSAA, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass is how you follow him. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great weekend. Go Birds, go Terps, go Navy, go Towson and or Morgan. That's a tricky one. I know for you, but not for me. My wife went to Towson. My grandmother was at Morgan for forever. I love them all.
Go Towson.
I just hope they all have fun, but apparently not me because I'm not allowed to. Damn this thing. All right, Duke sucks.